Or actually, after I unmute myself, good morning,
About
good
to say.
afternoon, good evening, everybody. I hope you are all doing well. However, you happen to be watching this and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. Where this week, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because there's a lot of real talk happening. I am, of course, your host, Mr. K. Asante, TK Asante, on all the places we communicate, and I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the svelte one himself, Mr. Everborn Saga. Good morning, sir. Looking good, man. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you doing this week, sir?
Oh, it's just a roller coaster of emotions, bro. You know how it goes. Enjoying some things, not enjoying some other things. It's the world we live in. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
You know.
I'm setting up for a birthday party for my nephew outside. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I've done my work. It's up to the ladies of the house now to
Okay.
do the
You've,
rest
you've
while
set
we
the
do
bird up.
this.
Not it's flying. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The ice has been secured. The heavy things have been lifted. The jacuzzi has been set up. The waterworks are in place. Now it is time for them to decorate.
All right.
Man work is
Happy
done.
July 4th weekend for those who
Yes,
celebrate
yes.
in these United States. Thanks to all who are happen to be here. I understand that it is the weekend where lots of things are happening. Shout out to the right off the top. Shout out to the great Game Logic, who's not only here but he's also gifted 5 memberships. We appreciate you, sir. And by the way, I understand you might be busy, but if you feel the need to, man, there's always a room in the third chair. We always appreciate when the great Game Logic joins us. And also, because he's here and he needs to be heard, the great Face 2023 BKNY with a $20 super chat. He's here early and he says, I don't trust Sony, God of War, Spider-Man, Uncharted, etc., and everything is going to Xbox. Wow. He wants to get into it right off
that.
rip.
I don't even know if I would go that far, but
I don't think so.
we will discuss that.
He wants to get into it right off rip. Trust
We
me, sir. I think we can all agree on
strange
that.
times now, though. I'll say that.
Dogs and cats living together. It is what it is. Anyway, so shout out to all the great folks that are already in our chat. Folks that we find in our Discord also. Folks that are always joining us in the mornings on a Saturday morning. Thank you guys so much for being here. By the way, new changes in the Discord. And if I don't say so, our Lord and Master in that Discord will have my head on the spike. And what I mean by that is Lucius Augustus. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
the militant one.
That's right. We have instituted
the militant Eula one.
The Eula one. That's right.
The militant Eula.
That's right. We have instituted some light guidelines, rules of the road, if you will. So now if you go on into our Discord, if you're new, you'll be greeted with a welcome page as you normally are. And, you've got to read the rules of the road and have to accept it. If you haven't been in a while and you go there, you'll still be greeted with that welcome, and you'll have to accept it before you continue. Since I think the 4th of July, since yesterday, that has now been instituted. So shout out to all those who are still part of the Discord, who continue to make the Discord great. We now have an easy way for you to get to the Discord, by the way, Mr. Everborn Saga. It is discord.gg slash the Gaming Circle Podcast. TGCP. That's it. Discord/DG/ the Gaming Circle Podcast. TGCP. That's it. It would have been GCP
like
alone.
Struggling there for a second, but
I know, because I was reading something. Yeah. It would have been GCP by itself, but it was taken, so it was the Gaming Circle Podcast. But it's easy to keep track of. Shout out to the great Cyril Tech for putting that inside our chat there.
Guys, GCP. What is that? What does their GCP stand for?
Sir, one day maybe we'll be emboldened enough to go find out. I'm just saying. But by the way, our Discord is holding them strong. We are 200 plus people strong. We are now a community officially. So shout out to all the folks who continue to make our Discord their home away from home. Hanging out with the fellas and the ladies. We have a good group there.
What's
up, man?
Shill for ourselves for a second.
Let's go.
See, some people shill for companies that don't know them, but I'm going to shill for our company here. So the Discord is, we're trying to build a very everyone's welcome, but we're trying to build a curated experience in that Discord where if you are tired of the mumbo jumbo on the timeline, if you are not interested in hearing sort of sycophantic yes men positions based on whatever company someone praises, you will be challenged here. But one thing that we always put above all is respect. So we like to if we had a tagline, it would be respectful disagreement in our Discord. And so, like, if you want to have introspective conversations, and many times it veers off from just games. I hear my volume's low. You're gonna have to blame Mr. K. Asante for that, but
no, actually, I've turned you up highly on this side, so it's all you, sir. Go ahead.
So you guys tell me. I turned it up on my side too. Tell me if I'm still low.
You sound a bit better
now.
You sound a bit better now.
If you want to get away from the sort of us versus them of the timeline, come there. We have conversations. Many times, 5 to 7 days a week, there's at least 20 people in the audio channels just talking life, and anyone's welcome to bring forward topics and ideas.
I hear it's unusual. By the way, I hear that's unusual. I thought that's just how we rolled, and because we always roll that way, we always want to talk to each other like friends. We chat, right? But I hear, because I'm not big on Discord normally, but I hear that is very unusual, that at any given time we can have like 20, 25 people in a live chat, just having a chat, just kind of going back and forth. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. We really enjoy doing that. So, y'all should join us.
It's very egalitarian. You can look the word up. That's like a $7 word. So if you don't know,
that's right. That's right.
Everybody's equal. And we really like to have some interesting conversations that we feel like people aren't having on their million podcasts, or what do you call it? So come check us out. I would say, come soon, because when we get the Patreon set up, it will still be free to join, but the audio channel that everyone's in all day is going to be in the Patreon. And if you're there now, don't worry. Everyone will be godfathered in that is there now. This is why I say come now, because you're going to get charged later on if you want to be a Johnny come lately. But free for now.
Was it tomorrow's price? It's not today's price.
Yes. So everybody's free for now, and everybody that joins now will be godfathered in. But I promise you'll get some. Think of if GCP lasted 8 hours a day and had
weeks,
15 to 20 people there. That's what it is. With a lot more swearing, because the YouTube.
And by the way, Paris says he feels attacked because you said shilling for companies. He feels attacked, sir. Like,
well, I said shilling for companies that don't know you, Paris.
Oh,
and I'm not saying that you shill, but they do know you.
Qualifier. Good job, sir. Anyway, so what are we gonna do today? There's two main topics that are going on in this world, right? And it has a lot of tentacles, subtopics within it, right? Moves that Xbox is making. Paris says, gasp. Shout out to you, good sir. So, moves that Xbox
and
is making.
I am attacking you for your Sonic slander. That's what.
Oh, yeah.
Know why you're being attacked, sir.
And the tentacled crazy, ramifications that come with the certain moves that are being made there. And obviously, actually, interesting enough, also moves that PlayStation's making, and also its ramifications. So we're going to get into that side of the house. But of course, we start this thing off playing some games, sir. I have a game I've been playing, a game that I actually think that you will really like when I convince you that it's something that should be put on your radar. But I'll let you start. What game have you been playing this week, sir?
So I got my Switch 2 on launch day.
Okay.
And
yes, sir.
I got the Mario Kart bundle, but I've never been a Mario Kart guy. I probably played that game for 20 minutes.
Are you gonna make me are you gonna make me potentially stress the ire of the ninjas? Am I have to put ninjas on the screen?
And this is why you get attacked, sir. But what do you call it?
What you playing? Yes, go ahead.
Oh, so Oh, I think I said it already. Yeah, we're doing a Sonic themed party for my
Yes,
nephew.
yes, yes, yes.
And I promise I did not. That wasn't my idea. It was his mom's
Sure,
idea.
it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just
Because Uncle
assisted when I
Everborn
heard that
is
that's
just
what they
like
wanted to do.
known for this. Like Uncle is like known for this. He is known for this so much so that when things that are Sonic related happen on the timeline, literally people tag him on it. But nah, this was just serendipitous. Whatever, bro.
Hey, what can I say? Some people get tagged because of the things they hate. I get tagged because of the things I
yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So,
Keep going
anyway,
and go and believe in yourself. Go ahead.
But anyway, I have no interest in Mario Kart, right? Because I have just been waiting for Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is already pre-ordered.
Myself included. Yep.
So I
and by the way,
there was
where the hell is my Donkey Kong Bonanza? Why the hell do I have to wait so long in between games to get more?
But this is good for me. This is good for me because there was a game that I bought on day one for the OG Switch, but never got to play it, which is Metroid Dread. So I'm experiencing Metroid Dread for the first time with the Switch 2
on
upgrades.
the Switch 2. Interesting, nice. Speak on it, sir. I remember you were playing it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So it makes you feel like the Super Nintendo game. It is obviously side scroller, very high production value. It is the kind of production value that we got in Lost Crown. I do have some gripes with the game though. I think the map system is atrocious.
Yeah.
And fast travel is even worse. And there's many times in the game where you can just get lost and have no idea where you're supposed to go. None whatsoever. Right?
Bro, it was like part of the game, so it seemed, because I'm telling you that exact thing. Exactly. Please continue, sir. I'll just sit back.
And then there's another element that you said that I wouldn't like, and I was fine with it, and then I was really annoyed with it, and then they make it less of an issue.
It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. Yes.
Where there's these security droids, and you can't kill them, but you can actually parry them and get away from them every time.
Yes,
so
you can.
Don't have to run. So when I learned, and it's very difficult because the tell isn't like telegraphed like
they ratchet up the tension
in the game.
They ratchet up the tension in that moment, and if you miss that small little window, it's like then you go back to it.
And this is the thing: they randomize the animation time, so you can't do it on rhythm, right? You have to see the cue and be fast enough. Did we lose something? Okay,
no, we're good. Keep going.
Yeah, so you have to see the cue and be fast enough. But when I figured that out, and then when I got more powerful, and there's more things, more powers that you get in the game. Some powers I don't think they use enough. It's like you get it, and then you use it to get past one place, and you never need it again.
Never need it. Yep.
So I say all that to say I am up to the last boss now. Boss, Ravenbeak, and again, the game is like everything you'd want in an old school love letter to the Metroid franchise. Yes, can we get the likes up, people? What are we doing?
Kojima says, "Get the likes up." What's good?
What are we doing?
Shout out to the man, Game Logic.
But yeah, I just think it's a fantastic game, and I would say it could have come out today, and it could have if they did better with the map system. I think games that have come out after it have done better. Like, for example, Lost Crown. Now, the platforming in it's not really about the platforming itself, right? You don't have like these crazy platform challenges.
Oh, there's the robot chasing them. It's chasing you.
Yeah. It is more about combat and, in a way, stealth when you're in the zone.
In the beginning, it's very much about stealth. Yeah.
Right. So, but again, it just, it's like they got the spirit of Metroid perfect.
Yep.
And then it's 3D, so so you have this kind of, it's just like one of those things where art style trumps everything. It doesn't matter what it was originally designed for. It just feels beautiful, right? So I'm very happy with this game. Now, I'm on the final boss, and he does cheat. So
yes, I remember this. Yes, I do recall.
May end up being like the game Soldiers, that is one of my favorite Metroid
You get to the last boss and go,
time.
okay, thank you, I'm done.
Yeah, that's it. I've gotten enough. I put like 80 hours into Soldiers, and I got to the
there.
final boss. Couldn't beat it.
Good.
I was like, you know what? I still love the game. 10 out of 10. No notes. I just can't handle the boss. We may be here. I don't know yet, because I just got to him yesterday. So I will. Yeah. I will try for some more, but I may have had my fill of this game, and that doesn't take anything away from it. It is more statement on me and my skills.
Hold up.
With this.
Hold up. Mr. Wolf. I forget. He's got a news flash. It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. Cats and dogs. We're living together. It's going to be fantastic. News flash from Mr. John Wolf for our Discord members. If you're not a Discord member, you should be, for this specifically alone. He will be hosting a Halo 2 season 2 watch party starting Monday. 2 episodes a day. It's a hangout.
John, I know you didn't watch it because the first season was so terrible, and I don't blame you for that decision, but I will say season 2 of Halo is actually good, and you will be in for a treat. And Kay Asante's in it, so you should have watched it in the first place.
Yo. So just a quick background for people who don't know. This was him losing a bet. And the bet that he lost with me was that he was going to do this watch long, right? And I'll be honest with you. Honestly, I didn't do this as a punishment. I did this because I know that most people watching this will, if they happen to go on the same trip with him.
Because you wanted to get an extra view on your IMDb credit.
I know for sure that when you finish this whole thing, you'll be like, yo, this was actually far better than I thought it was going to be. I have a feeling people will walk away pretty dang surprised. Had they started this, it'd have been cool. It's starting at 10 a.m. Is it a.m. or p.m.? I suspect it's a.m.
10 a.m.
Right?
EST, AM? Monday.
Yeah, a.m. So it's a watch along while you work. If you happen to be in the office, you can hang out on the Discord, get your phone out. I'll be on there with the man. We'll hang out. It'll be good. Good.
Some say that the worst thing about season 2 is season 1.
Yes, I completely agree, wholeheartedly. So yes. Anyway, that's a real good shout out to John Wolf for reminding me on that one.
Especially when you get cast commentary from Mr. Captain Keys. So
y'all got to stop the bullshit. All right. Anyway, continue regaling us with your tales from Metroid Dread, sir.
No. That's it. I was just saying I may not beat the final boss, but that's nothing to do with the game and more to do with me.
Okay.
And
you just had enough. You there?
Yeah. But again, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna if I can get him in the next couple of days, maybe over the weekend, I'll do it. But if I'm still banging my head against the wall, I'm gonna move on.
You may want to bow out.
If you haven't played this, you have my full support and recommendation for it. This is a 2021 game, so I don't know how you guys would have missed it. I'm notorious for missing things like this, but highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for something to do with your Switch 2 while you wait for Donkey Kong Bonanza.
So,
and shout out to Pixelbit G who has entered the chat.
While I agree with your recommend on all points, I will say I happen to have beaten the game already. If this is a cheat, then I accept my cheating ways. It took a while for me to beat that game. I had to play it on this before it eventually I was able to conquer the game. So that's neither here nor there. We're gonna keep it moving. Anyway,
you know what? The new Pro controller is pretty good though. That's how
dog water, sir. Dog water, sir. I'm sorry.
Xbox controller is the greatest controller that God has ever given us.
No. I'll even throw the PlayStation controller at you, sir. The triggers, nah, fam. At $90 some odd, nah, fam. No.
I hear you, but I do. Okay, I do have some smoke for the Switch. By the way, did I show you guys this? It's 3D
I see what you did. Yeah. This man, somebody gave him a 3D printer and they set him loose. He's out there doing things.
So I don't know if I also showed you guys Ariel, the model.
Yep. Oh, we have some kappas in the chat. We have some cappers in the chat. Aaron says Nintendo best controller. I'm sorry.
That is a bold-faced lie. Cut
that
it
is
out. You don't believe that, Aaron. But anyway,
yes, I don't think you believe that.
Nintendo smoke.
Go ahead.
This may be the worst DRM that I have ever seen. My God. Like, I have multiple Switches in this house, right? I have my OG day one 2017 Switch that I waited online outside for. I got 3 Switches in here for the kids and the daycare and all of that stuff, right? And I might have another one, but I can't find it. So, and then there's the 2 Switch 2s that I have. One for me, one for my daughter or whatever. So at least 6 Switches I have in this house. Now, did you know that even if you are signed in to you're signed in, it's your account. I'm not talking about lending a game to someone. That's pretty cool. Lending
your
account. You got multiple devices. Did you know that in order to play a game that you own, allegedly, digitally, or that you own a license for, is what you have to say today. It's so funny. People say, oh, Game Pass is renting games, and then this Nintendo licensing thing and all these digital rights where you don't really own the game, you just own a license to the game. Everybody's renting. But we can have that conversation later. But you have to have the other device near you. Forget about if you lost it, right? Forget about if you left it at a friend's house. Forget about if you sold it. If that device is not near you, you're not playing that game you own. And
as my kids like to say, you're cooked.
Right. Hold on. And this doesn't only apply to games. It applies to apps as well.
Everything.
YouTube.
YouTube.
If I want to watch YouTube on one Switch, I have to transfer it from the other Switch. Think about this.
Oh, hold on. Dr. Dry Rub says, wait.
Dry Rub, hold on. I'm gonna wait. I will be right back. We're gonna test this live on air.
Okay. All right.
So I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get my Switch from the other room.
He is gonna go get his Switch. We are gonna try that out because damn it, we need this live confirmation. So I'll be honest with you. I haven't got a chance to try that one specifically myself, but I'll tell you, like, I've been wanting reasons to enjoy my games, man. I've been wanting reasons to replay. So my bit of smoke while we wait for him. I'm a guy who likes to play certain games on certain systems, right? What do you call it? The Steam Summer Sale just happened, and I always make a rule for myself. I will buy one game, like one game's worth of games. So like I usually don't pay full price for a game. Like I'll pay $60. But during the summer sale, I will see as many games as I can get for that $60. This time it was, I think, 10 games that equaled $60. So it was awesome. Hold on, real quick. Crypt of the Necrodancer. I don't know if y'all have played it. It's on the Switch 1. I love this game, and it was so good that after Crypt of the Necrodancer came out, the developer was allowed to make was given the Zelda franchise and was allowed to make Cadence of Hyrule. Another version of that. It's like a dance, almost timed dungeon crawler. That game, it can't work on Switch 2 for some reason. It's on the list. Don't know what happened. So I eventually had to go buy that on the Steam Summer Sale because I tried to play that on my Switch 2, only for it to show me their version of Blue Screen of Death. I didn't know that was a thing. I learned that this weekend. Anyway, I'm sorry. Everborn Saga, let us test out your theory. Go ahead and see what's good. Oh, so Everborn, he's got receipts. He's got the whole situation. Let's go. All right. Let's go. Let's do this.
Turn this thing on.
All right. So
where's the power button?
So the great Dr. Dry Rub, who, by the way, a great member of our community, who has done such great work for us. Sometimes he's just throwing codes in the chat, even on this show. Thank you, Dr. Dry Rub. Always so prolific in your
let me highlight
your
problem,
contributions. Right? All right, let's see what you got.
These are your virtual game cards. These are your digital games that you own. And I only do digital. I've been all digital since 2013. PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. All right, so I saw Digital Foundry say, hey, there's a Mario Odyssey upgrades. I said, all right, let me go get Mario Odyssey, right? Load to system.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you can't load it to your system.
Let's see what happens.
System. Okay.
Of course it works now because the device is close by. Of course.
But if the device wasn't close by, it was going to bitch at you about it.
If the device is not close by. Okay, but Dr. Dryrub, tell us the setting.
Yeah, and if that's the setting, right? What was that setting for? Is that mean to, so then once that setting is disabled, now you can like use your account across devices and it won't have a close proximity requirement? Is that what this? And he says he's looking, by the way. So no worries. Shout out to Dr. Dryer. We're doing live troubleshooting.
Look at this. This guy calls my bluff live on air. And by the way, I have a video of this not working, by the way.
And he calls your bluff live on air.
And then I try to get him with the gotcha, right?
Paris, of course. He says it's the Sonic setting. Only works.
All right, hold on. Let's try this. I think it is because the other device
they literally caught you out on 4K,
it's
bro.
Close enough. I know what it is. The device is in the room right below me, but when I'm in my bedroom, it's on the other side of the house, so it is not within proximity.
Mr. Kojima is asking. Close proximity actually means on the same Wi-Fi network, right?
I don't think so, but again, it could be that the power was off on the device.
Yo, absolutely it's over. Cooked. Live on air, bro.
Oh my God. Wait, we're going to try another one just so I can make it worse for myself. All right, let's see. All right. I know for a fact my nephew who has my OG Switch, he's playing Sonic Mania. So if this transfers, I am going to pack it up. I'm gonna be like the PlayStation guys who said Helldivers was never coming to Xbox.
Join us on the Discord where you two can roast.
So Sonic Mania, let's try it.
Let's go. Let's see what's going on.
System.
We're gonna put this on the front screen. Let's see what happens.
And it works.
Bam! Right on 4K.
Besides the point, the device has to be near. And if it's not near, you don't get it. But the device wasn't near. You know what? Okay. No. This is what we're going to do.
He's not going to give up.
I'm going to go turn off the other device and then make this work. That's what we're going to do.
We still going to do this. We're going to do this again. You're going to keep doing this. You're going to dig deeper. Just dig deeper. Come on.
No, because somebody needs to talk about this, right? Like, it's not fair that it works that way.
Sir, clearly, you are the wrong messenger at this point.
Of course.
Because you have ruined the message.
Someone else.
So how about we move on?
Because now I sound like a hater. And I was trying to play Mario Odyssey in my room the other night, and I could not do it.
You sound like a person who has a problem with Avowed. Let's keep it moving, shall we?
Wow. Let me shut down. Oh, this is another thing we should talk about, right? Latest update comes out for that aggregated library on Xbox. Breaks the aggregated library.
Yes, and it's continued to break the aggregated library. They've
for the last 3 updates
since then, and it's still broken. Yes.
To be fair to them, they have been doing daily updates, but I guess they haven't figured out, of course, because this is how I actually use this thing, right?
Yeah.
The proper
and of course, when you turn it on, it does show it in the jump on.
So,
but it
game bar. By the way, I see Logic in the chat, right? Logic.
Yes, sir.
Remember, I talked about this in the Discord. If you're in the Discord, you'd know this. When everyone was making the hubbub about I took my knees, gave his own knees. So Logic, you remember this when everyone was making the hubbub about Steam games running on from an Xbox, and I said maybe people are making much to do about nothing because even today, like before the aggregated library came out, the game bar had that functionality where you could launch Steam games right from the game bar, right? So this is more the same kind of app aggregation that you see in GOG, right? Or your Launchbox or any of these things, right? And because it's a PC, it's not that big of a deal. And if the next Xbox is a PC, it's not a huge thing as everyone was making it out to be, because I think everyone was looking at things with the sort of console lenses, right? But
so,
anyway,
but one thing though,
I will show you this before you tell me that. Let me just end this thread, right? So you can still see your last launch games. These are all Steam games, by the way, right? Because who would buy a game in the Xbox PC store? But anyway, these are all Steam games. And now when I go to library, I only see my Xbox games. And if I were to filter on Steam games, because you can filter on Steam or Xbox games, I get nothing. So I only have my last launch games. And it's been like that for the last 3 updates. And to their credit, they have been doing updates every day, but the last 3 updates, this feature is still broken. So
Mr. Dry Rub, ever the troubleshooter, providing you how to repair your issues. And by the way, I too have my Switch 2 on deck. So here we go. Let's go. We're gonna do this.
Wait, turn off your other Switch, because maybe you can test this thing, so I could get back some of my knees.
My Switch is already off.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
He says he's gonna take some of this.
All right.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, because we are here for war today, we got Mr. There's levels to this. Doc Dark here, the fifth turtle. I say it myself every time. That picture, bro, you did it yourself. He says, gentlemen, what's happening? PlayStation is for third party. Yes, we'll talk about that.
If we're using the same logic that's used against Xbox, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So he said,
he said, on your Switch, go to settings, user profile, online license, enable.
Okay, use online licenses.
Look at this. This is wonderful podcasting. He's literally like troubleshooting live on the radio.
Are we
anyway?
All right, we're good. I will. My knees go to Dr. Dry Rub.
Yeah. The great Dr. Dry Rub, who's a wonderful member in our community, who will not be denied. And of course, he took our co-host's knees live on air, sir. Live on air. But anyway, so let me catch up on a couple super chats, and then we'll readdress. I have a couple games. One game specifically that I really want to chat about. But before we get there, real quick, Adidas 20, the great Adidas 20, who's been a member for 14 months. He says, salute to you, kind sir, and everyone. Salute to you on this great Saturday morning. Thank you, man, for being here, as you always are. The great Web Dave with a $2 super chat. He says, Everborn, how's your game coming along? Good question. Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you so much, Web Dave. And by the way, how's your game coming along, sir?
I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that. I feel like I'm under pressure now.
Wow.
In other words, I need to get off my behind and get back to that. But it's difficult. We're working on 3 comics at once. We got a bunch of shows this year. I got to find more hours in the day. Maybe if I would play a little bit less Metroidvanias, I would have more time to work on the game. I'm only one man.
Hey, now.
I'm only one man.
He's only one man, ladies and gentlemen. And the great Soul Tech, another wonderful member of our community, a mod, an ascended one in our community. He says, please hit that like button. He's here with a $2 super chat. And subscribe. Share this out. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for your continued support there, Soil Tech. Always a great member of our community. He is our adjudicator, by the way. Whenever we do these back and forths, he tends to be our judge that keeps us in line. He's our moderator. Great moderator, by the way. And then the great MJ Dark, the awesome MJ Dark, with a $10 super chat. He says, good morning, guys. Death Stranding 2 is peak Godjima cooking. Donkey is only a week away. Relax. The game will have an easy mode for you. Since we've seen your gameplay, LOL, you should try Blade. What is it? Blade Chimera. All right, and it's 2D DMC. Ooh, well, that's always pretty good. This man does great recommendations. By the way, since he's already put it on Front Street, the great MJ Dark, I understand he lost his position recently, which we will also talk about. Shout out to the great MJ Dark. I hope he lands on his feet soon. MJ, we have you in our thoughts. We're gonna get to that in a minute, but yes, shout out to you, good sir. Anyway, and by the way, we have great members of our community in the chat as well. I see Mr. Badbit in here. Shout out to Badbit. By the way, did I tell you, everyone, I got to meet Badbit in June. He was at the Community Fan Fest event. Really cool. Very nice. Great nice. Human. Yeah, man. We are continuing to publicly shame you and hoping that one day you too will join us. It was awesome. It was awesome seeing you, man. You should be with us one of these times.
One of these
next year, maybe.
Maybe we can get some set some goals, I should say.
Okay.
Set some goals so that we can the GCP can send me.
Yeah, man. That'd be awesome. I look forward to the world the eventual world we live in where that is a possibility. So before we move on to our stories,
186 people watching. I would like to know how many likes we have.
That is awesome. 186 people watching. That is across your YouTubes. That is across there's always one person watching on Twitch. Shout out to you, good sir.
Are you sure that one person is not you?
No, I'm not watching myself. No, I'm obviously not.
Yes, BT Maverick says Everborn's going to spread the CEG gospel all over LA. Absolutely. My goal is to get some, I don't care who it is, some gaming CEO from Xbox, PlayStation, or whoever
to say the word CEG.
Yes, the acronym CEG.
Doesn't it sound gross? He's spreading it. It just sounds. There's already enough grossness being spread all over LA for you to add your spreading. Anyway, so because Everborn Saga cannot have enough. Wow. Okay. The great.
We are gonna get into it.
Yo, we here for war today, man. The great VG Fight School is in the chat with a $2 super chat. He says full with the L, third party, emphasizing of the Y.
VG, I want to ask you a question, right? Because there was a lot of, and again, we're not going to go into this right now. I'm just giving you a question to ponder for when we get into that topic. Yes, but a lot of people said because X, Y, and Z games came to PlayStation from Xbox, even though not everything came, they said there's no purpose in owning an Xbox. Is there now still a purpose to own a PlayStation?
Would y'all like?
I'm just asking a question. It is only a question.
Sure, sir. Sure. It is a question you can ask, and we will table an answer in a little bit.
We will table it. But the answer is yes, there is still a reason to own a PlayStation.
Of course.
Just like there's still a reason to own an Xbox. If you like Xbox,
obviously,
and you have a library there, and you prefer to play there.
Absolutely.
But like so many things, we don't understand them until PlayStation does it.
Yes.
But anyway, we will come back to that.
Anyway,
I'm getting a knock on the door.
Okay,
so I will be back, but I'm here. Okay, so I'm listening.
Understood, sir. Understood. And while I'll catch up on a couple more super chats, and then I'll talk about the story, and then we'll get into it. Because man, oh man, we got to get into it. People want to talk about it. So, the great Doc Dark, Mr. There's Levels to This himself with a $2 super chat. He says, tell VG with a $2. He said, tell VG it's not developed by Sony. #Tony. Okay. And then, of course, VG, man, we going to have war in our chat today. He comes back, VG Fight School, with another $2 super chat. He goes, answer full with the emphasis on the L. Ooh, third party. Man, today's going to be one of them days. All right. Okay. I look forward. Man, today is gonna be one of those days. Anyway, before we get into all that messiness, and Mr. Everborn Saga, I'm sure, will join us. Let me quickly talk about the game I've been playing, because I have a feeling that he will probably want to play this game as well. So I think I may have spoken about this lightly, briefly, during, I think I played it a little bit during one of the Steam fan events when you could play a bunch of the demos. This was last year, and the game is called Mandragora: Whisper of the Witch Tree. Now, this game is one of those games that, of course, it's kind of Capnet for Everborn Saga. It kind of presents itself as a Metroidvania, but it has a lot of really interesting style to it that I really think that should be commended and brought forth. So as you can see, and again, forgive us if the footage is less than stellar, but the medium only allows for what the medium allows for. But very, very heavy on the stylistic animation. It is a 2D side scroller like, but of course the whole world is very three-dimensional. It gets very, very deep in its systems, at least so far that I've played. I haven't been able to finish it just yet. I've been playing it solely on the old Odin. I've been playing it on the MSI Claw. So I really have been having a good time playing it.
Back.
Oh, he is back. Sir, I think you should spend some time putting this game specifically on your list. It is called Mandragora. I think I spoke to you about this before.
I own this.
You have this game. Okay, yes. Okay. Have you played it yet?
I played it on day one.
Okay.
It's a little like Diablo vibes, but it's a Metroidvania.
Mm-hmm. And it also has a bit of Souls kind of stamina meters.
Exactly.
Yes.
I almost wish it wasn't 3D.
I actually like the 2D 3D aspect. It kind of gives it a little painterly art style. Oh, hold on. Before we continue, because it's that show, and we always appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Paris Lily. What's going on, good sir? How you doing this morning?
What's happening?
Good morning. I appreciate that I have the open invite to jump in whenever.
Always,
man, you are always welcome. What's up, man?
And obviously, after this past week, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of conversation going on. And I don't want to take a lot of time. I actually want to address two people that are in your chat.
Let's go.
Is it VG and Doc Dark?
Yeah. Doc Dark, I want to address just first and foremost. You know, he messy as hell. I can already envision all the third-party videos that are about to come out from him. But VG Fight School, because I do watch his videos, and I was actually featured in one the other day. But I want to say, for the record, this whole Helldivers thing, and he was talking about MLB The Show. No, it was first one. That does not count because MLB mandated that. So, of course, Sony did not want to lose the MLB license. So, of course, they're going to put it on Xbox. And everything that we've seen over, the past 3 or 4 years with MLB The Show being on Xbox was mandated by MLB. So, Helldivers 2 is the first, quote unquote, first party PlayStation game that will show up on an Xbox platform. And I want to say, for the record, I've been saying this for years, and people got so mad that I said that the business of gaming is changing, because it is. And it's about, they got to still grow. They got to still make money. People can want their exclusives all they want. Exclusives are not bad. I will never tell a company that owns an IP they have to put their games on another platform. My only issue with exclusivity has always been with third-party exclusives. I don't like that. I think if you're third party, just put things everywhere, right? But as we're seeing, PlayStation is starting with Helldivers. We already know Marathon's going to come. I would assume Fair Games is going to come as well, because why not? You're of course you're going to put your live service games on as many platforms as you can, because you want the biggest population of people playing, obviously. But I'm going to say, for the record, there will be a single player game that will come to the Xbox platform. I don't know when. I'm not saying it's happening in 2025. Might not even happen in 2026. But there will be a day that a first party PlayStation game will grace the covers of the Xbox console, and not, it's on Steam. No, they're going to put it, it's going to be on the Xbox store, and you're going to be able to buy it directly from there, and you're going to be able to play it. It's going to happen. As I was on Gamertag Radio, I said on Gamertag Radio, Mike My guess would be Spider-Man would be the first one.
You know what you've done now, right? Now this will be clipped for time and memorial with us looking.
I don't care.
Until eventually
I don't care.
It comes true.
You know I don't care. Everything I say is overanalyzed and poked and prodded. So I'm just being as direct as I possibly can that this is what I think is going to happen, because it's about business. And this is why I've also always said they weren't going to ever block anything that was on Steam coming to a Xbox hybrid. It's about money. If I own the license, they're trying to make money. Why do they care? They're showing you right now they don't care about the stuff that we fuss about on these platforms, on social media, and on these podcasts. In the C-level executive suites, they're just talking about how much money can they make. And as awful as this week is, and this is directly on Xbox leadership and obviously above them to Microsoft leadership, to see the layoffs for a variety of reasons that happen, that's on them. And what do you think it's about? It's about them trying to make more money, revenue. And it sucks. It sucks that people are personally affected by these decisions to appease shareholders and profit margins. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. I know you guys are going to talk about it more, but I just wanted to put that out there. That's all I got.
Hey, Paris, before you go, I would say, I know you say you think Spider-Man, and it makes sense. It's a license thing. It's a way for Insomniac to get some money while revenue coming in while they are working on Wolverine, which is a super expensive license for them. It totally makes sense. And Spider-Man is a character that is very popular in the West, which is the strongest region for Xbox. So would likely do well there. However, just because I like to think outside of the box and sometimes be a contrarian, I would argue that the first single player game that we'd see is more likely to be Horizon.
I thought of that too.
That is the IP that they've always sort of experimented with, right? We've seen Horizon in VR. We've seen Horizon, it is the first single player game that went to PC. We've seen Horizon, them do the Lego work, right? So to me, and it's again, it's a Western IP, right? It's not like something that has more of an Eastern focus. I think Horizon is the kind of IP that they want to see grow into sort of the stratosphere, and we know the Decima engine already works on Xbox because Death Stranding 1 came.
Death Stranding.
Yep.
So I wonder if it may not be a Horizon that goes even before a Spider-Man.
That's an interesting idea.
And that was, I also thought of that too. You're 100% correct, and that very well could be the case. I just thought Spider-Man, just because it's a universal beloved IP by everybody. So, if I'm trying to get people to instantly run out and go buy it, Spider-Man would be the one. If Spider-Man is on an Xbox made by Insomniac, Variety's talking about it. The Hollywood Reporter's talking about it. Everyone's talking about that. So I just think from a marketing and exposure standpoint, you're going to get way more people on board, to want to get it versus Horizon, which I personally like. I know obviously there's some people that don't like Horizon, but yeah, what you're saying wouldn't shock me at all. I would think Horizon would be an excellent candidate for that. And like I see someone saying Returnal right now. Yeah, I thought about Returnal as well.
That's a good pick. I like that.
Does the roguelike genre translate enough for big sales? Again, I'm talking the first game that comes over.
No, yeah. In general, no, that'd be more of a PC title, which is why they put it on PC. Yeah,
right. But just to my point again, and again, I don't want to take up all your time. I just think this is inevitable with the current state of the industry, where everything is, forget brand loyalty, all these things. It's going to happen. Live service will be the first step, of course. But I think you're going to experiment. Again, it's just 4 games, right? It's just a live service game. It's going to happen, in my opinion. And ultimately, it doesn't hurt anybody, I think is my point.
I agree.
Paris, I would like to read you a quote from the one and only Herman Holtz.
Okay.
I wonder if this is the one I put in the chat. Go ahead.
This one is back from 2020 when Horizon first went to the PC. This is the direct quote from Herman Holtz. This is from a Verge article from 2020, which I will get the link and I'll put it in the chat momentarily. But still, Holtz maintains that Horizon's fate does not signal a larger trend. And this is in quotes. To maybe put a few minds at ease, releasing one first-party AAA title to PC doesn't necessarily mean that every game will now come to PC. He told the PlayStation blog, right? This is what he wrote in the PlayStation blog. When Horizon went, just because Horizon is going doesn't mean that every PlayStation game is going to PC. What does that sound like to you, Paris?
It's just 4 games. That's what it sounds like to me. Okay. And this is what I'm saying, man.
Phil took notes from Herman. But go ahead.
Look, yeah. And to be clear, I don't think if you see single player games come to Xbox, I don't think it's day and date. I do think there will be a timed window. I don't think it would be anything day and date, because I do think PlayStation, as they have said over and over, still value the console platform as far as hardware sales, things like that. So no, I don't think now God of War and Uncharted and all that's day and date. No, but 18 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months down the road after it releases, it shows up on an Xbox platform. I can totally see that. I think that happened. This is what I thought, to be clear, I thought Xbox was about to do. And I was wrong. They're like, nope.
Wait a minute. Sorry.
Everything.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Paris. Logic. I would like to ask, because the real talking point for Xbox is that they're full third party. Every Xbox game hasn't gone to a PlayStation, but we don't talk about it that way.
Correct. Yeah, right? it's not going to be 100% either way, and we're already seeing that with Xbox. Now, I think Xbox will get to a day where it is 100% parity, but you got to have the resources, the manpower, and hell, they're laying people off, so it's even less now to be able to get the stuff up. I may or may not have had a conversation with someone at Xbox during the showcase about why isn't a certain game on PlayStation, and the answer was, well, does it make sense for us to dedicate their time and resources to port it to PlayStation, or do we put them on the next project?
I remember that conversation. Yes. I remember that conversation. Yeah,
so
very, very.
So I do think in that way there is some case by case. But what I'm saying is, if there's an opportunity to generate more revenue, they're going to do it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And look, people get mad at me about that and all this and you value this and value that. That's fine. We can say that. We can think that. I'm just thinking bottom line as a business. And I think that's why people get mad at me, because sometimes I just try to look at it from that standpoint versus what I might personally feel or think. And all I'm saying is, we see what the industry is. We see what's been happening over the past few years. They're trying to make more money. Look, the people, the comments and the tweets that people like to pull up from stuff I might have said 4 or 5 years ago isn't the conversation today, because it changed. It's just that simple. Exclusivity is not as ironclad as it used to be. It's fluid. It's very fluid.
And again, at the end of the day, people have different rules in how they view Xbox and how they view PlayStation, right? And I'm not saying that to say anything other than, right, the common consensus, even when it was just 4 games, we said, well, we know there's going to be more. And it's like, so all the people that are making fun of the just 4 games thing now are the people that said, hey, it's just 4, the volume is low, but it's going to be more, right? So the fact is this: PlayStation, like Microsoft, like Nintendo, like Square, like Capcom, like Sega, are subject to the same market forces, right? Now, the market forces are the market forces. Different people will have to react to those forces in different ways. And there was a world, because this is another thing I see. A lot of the people that told you the juice wasn't worth the squeeze is now telling you Helldivers makes a lot of sense. It's logical. Cut it out, right? Like this is the thing. This is a good thing, and I think Sony is doing it a smarter way than Xbox has gone about it, because you can see they're choosing titles that make sense in certain places. Lego Horizon is the kind of game that does well on the Switch platform, on the Nintendo platform, right? Helldivers 2 is the kind of game that traditionally does well on an Xbox platform. Right?
You can tell by First Descent.
It
makes more on Xbox than a PlayStation.
They're more methodical. It's a more conservative approach. It is less jarring. It gives their fans some reason to make excuses for it, like we're seeing in the chat, right? And at the end of the day, right, this is now the 4th game that that they support and make that is on other consoles, and it'll be 5, I think, when Marathon comes out. And everything is an excuse, right? Everything's an excuse. Well, MLB made them do it, and this is not to you, Paris, but I'm just talking.
No, I know what you're saying.
General, right? Well, MLB made them do it. Well, they signed a contract with Destiny. Well, I know Marathon's coming out. Even though Sony's now in full control of Bungie, Marathon's still going to come out to the Xbox, but they want to save face. Well, Lego Horizon was Lego, even though they published it and developed it.
So that's what Paris is saying, that this is the first time where, and of course,
no, it's not. Lego Horizon it's the second time.
But what the reason why we're saying this is because if you look on the labels, right, and this is all red herrings. Let's be clear. It's all red herrings. But if you look on it, at this point, the only people publishing this is Sony SIE Publishing. It specifically says so. In every other instance, there's been another
Lego Horizon.
No, Lego Horizon was Lego. It was not Sony.
No, it's not. You can check it right now. It's published by Sony Publishing LLC. This is the point.
It does say so? Okay.
Yes,
well,
it does.
What are we
this
talking
is what
about?
I'm saying. There is common talking points, and then there's actual facts. And we talk about things as though they are truth, when in fact, the data shows us otherwise, right? And again, I just think we should, if we're going to apply the same kind of thinking and logic, let's apply it. Right. And the fact is, this is a good thing. And another fact is, I can say this, Sony is being smarter about this than Xbox, and they're being more cautious of their brand and their fans. But make no mistake, they are, this is the 4th going on 5th game that are going to other consoles that they continue to update and support. You know why? Because Sony's not interested in what people are saying on the timeline. They are interested in money. Right? Now, they will be brand conscious if they feel like that will affect the brand. But the reality is the console market, I'm not saying it's dead. I am not saying anything other than it is a mature market, and people with their digital libraries are kind of locked in. And again, this is not Talladega Nights, where if you're not first, you're last, right? They're like Helldivers 2 now has access to another 30+ million people.
Absolutely.
And PlayStation is recognizing the same thing that Capcom recognized, that Sega recognized, that Square then recognized, that Kojima Productions recognized, that 30 million people is still 30 million people. Right? So how about we just talk about these things in reality and remove our feelings from it?
And ladies and gentlemen, because today is a day of days, we can't let it rest. The battle continues. The one and only VG Fight School.
I tried to hold it down for you before you got here, VG.
Morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Barry.
Good morning, sir.
Everborn. Good morning, guys.
I'm going to go on mute now because I don't even need to say anything.
Okay.
Let's go.
So, I just told the kids, I said, guys, I need to jump into this box. So, Paris, I heard your statement about MLB The Show, and you say it doesn't count. And in a technical sense, I take it, big bro. I agree. However, here is what I've kind of always built my thinking on. It's the fact that these companies, and everyone was just talking about the market forces, they have financial obligations that they have to reach, and they have to
100%.
And MLB, once they pushed PlayStation to the point where PlayStation had to budge to a financial obligation, that's exactly where the crack started to show. Because external forces could be your license holder. External forces could be the market changing. External forces are Fortnite. They're all over the place, basically biting at the heels of the established, order in terms of the way video games have always, been published and the way exclusives, have always, been presented to us. So when I saw MLB The Show, I had to go back and look, and San Diego Studios right now, is enjoying Xbox's money because Xbox gamers are buying that game. And that's the beauty of it. Once I looked at the sales, Berkshire Hathaway was announcing in 2021, the first time it went to Xbox, that the game was the fastest selling game in the franchise because it launched day and date on both PlayStation and Xbox. And then they said they had reached about 4 million players. So I would say that the deficit of 2 million players, I guess the balance of 2 million players were people who played via Game Pass. So MLB The Show has benefited, right? They benefited, number one, from the fact that the game went to another platform, and then they benefited from the fact that more people got to play their game, right? And they got a bag. Like that would mean that if they went to Game Pass, they got a Microsoft bag, a Sony studio getting a Microsoft, payment of some kind was already wild in 2021 when that happened. I think, with the conversation focused on everything else. Oh, MLB, and I've read a lot of the articles. MLB, some analysts came out and said, MLB may have wanted this. Sony did a press release, and I think there were conversations that, MLB wanted to get the franchise to more people. But not a lot of people were talking about the fact that Phil Spencer approved the check to go to San Diego Studios for putting that game on Xbox. So as PlayStation being a benefactor of Xbox and Xbox's player base, it already signaled that there is a viable market here. So imagine everybody leaping over that and claiming that Xbox is dead. Xbox gamers don't buy games. All of this down talking to the Xbox community. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? Xbox gamers probably bought almost as much, and based on their Game Pass subscriptions, probably spent as much more in terms of, when we look at, say, whatever the agreements may have actually put together, possibly, on this game. And yet they are the community that, you should hear the things people say. Oh, they're being trained not to buy games. I'm like, where are people getting this stuff from? So I for some strange reason, and I'm not even an Xbox gamer, I just took it personally. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down on this MLB The Show, matter. And I'm going to say, okay, why did PlayStation not even go? Because there's also I have to hear these voices in my head. There are all these, conversations like, oh, okay, well, Sony is going to block PlayStation games from being played on the new Xbox, these notions. And I'm like, well, why would they do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if San Diego Studios is still, and PlayStation has not decided, we don't want to put games on Xbox, and they haven't walked away so far or found a different thing to do in the last 3 years and are just making MLB The Show games, then they're comfortable. We're not hearing of any problems in their studio in terms of like layoffs or, restructuring and stuff. So something is actually going good for them. And maybe it's extra. Maybe they were fine without Xbox. Well, that's a possibility. And so that's why I stuck with MLB The Show. Now, yes, you are correct that MLB most likely or even definitively would have wanted that game to go to, Xbox. But all I see is, and it's not because that's all I want to see, but I see that PlayStation understands and has a very good pipeline into Xbox's money, money pool.
Yeah, the way I see what you're saying, and I totally 100% get everything that you're saying. The way I see it with the MLB thing, why I said I disagreed, is Sony would have never done it unless MLB provided the pressure to do so. But now PlayStation has the data to see how an Xbox gamer interacts with one of their games, right? We have about 4 years of data at this point where you're seeing, okay, this many people are getting it via the Game Pass. This many people are actually buying the game. Now, at no point do I think Helldivers 2 is going on Game Pass. I don't think that. But they know to the point again, there's 30 plus million people that have an Xbox console that potentially could now go pick up Helldivers and go play it, which I know this isn't a conversation, but this is why when people got mad at me about saying it was criminal that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth wasn't on Xbox, it's to this very point. Square was leaving money on the table by not having their game available to those 30 million people.
But Paris, Xbox gamers don't buy games. Don't you know this? All they know how to do is rent. They've been conditioned. The platform has conditioned them to not buy games. So I don't know what Capcom and Square and Sega and Take-Two and EA and PlayStation and Kojima
what have
Productions.
You been drinking this morning, everybody?
I don't. A lot of coffee. The point is, this makes no sense because everyone knows Xbox gamers don't buy games. Why is this happening, Paris?
Let me say this. Let me answer your question this way. I don't care about console wars, brand loyalty. Play wherever the hell you want. This is why I always say, make games more available, make them more available to more people is my point. I know people try to throw in the quality argument about, well, if you're developing for multi-platforms at the same time, it degrades quality, blah, 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 blah. All I know is there's been third-party developers for 40 plus years of video games, and they seem to make some fantastic games and that are available on platforms the same day. Again, it's a business. You got to realize they got to make money. They can't protect your feelings about, well, it's only available to me and you can't play it if you don't buy this hardware. We're in a different age now. It's about, no, they're trying to make money. You put the games. Why do you think Square has changed their philosophy? Why do you think, and because there's another one I see about the Xbox Play Anywhere stuff. Well, Xbox Play Anywhere only benefits Microsoft games because obviously it's first party. Why would a third party do it? I don't know. I think we just saw a showcase where we saw a whole bunch of third party games that are now Xbox Play Anywhere. I think we just saw Final Fantasy 16 be Xbox Play Anywhere. So clearly they're seeing that as an incentive for people to want to go purchase their game because, oh, wow, now I only have to buy it once and I can play it on multiple places versus trying to nickel and dime people like we know Rockstar is going to do with Grand Theft Auto 6. Well, you want to play it on PC, you better go buy it again. It's changing because this next generation of gamers, look, games are expensive as hell as it is anyways. They're $80+ now. Nobody wants to keep spending $80+ on games just so they could go play it on another device. They want that convenience. You attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. In my opinion, this is just my point of view.
He just called a bunch of people flies. See what you just did?
Since you're on the road to life. Yes, sir.
If I may, right? There's different ways we can look at this, right? We can look at this with a level head, and we can understand that. And if you look at the current Matt Piscatella presentation that he just did for the games business, I will say, as many disagreements as I've had with the one Christopher Dring, he's been doing good work, and I do recommend subscribing to his the Business of Gaming channel that he has. He had the president of Sega on the other day. Great interview, 21 minutes. He hosted a 18-minute presentation of the market, the North American market, with Matt Piscatella, and he just did another podcast talking about the Western and Eastern markets. And I think it's good work. As much as when he's on the timeline, I don't disagree. I don't agree with a lot that he says or his perspective. Anyway, my point is, Matt Piscatella pointed out that discretionary spending as a result of inflation and tariffs are going down for U.S. consumers. So things like clothing, things like entertainment, specifically video games and things like that, when the prices of gas and utilities and milk and these essential things go up, people have less disposable income to spend on these things. So spending is going down on top of a correction post-COVID when people overinvested. So again, these are the market forces. And at the end of the day, if Xbox was making enough money on Xbox, they wouldn't be porting games to PlayStation, right? Because you're losing 30% there. But the point is, there's a bigger market out there, and you can't keep fighting over the same people when you can go, because you'd have to spend more than that 30% than you're losing just on customer acquisition. And the same thing goes for Sony, especially with these service games. If Sony's live service plan panned out, you probably wouldn't be seeing Helldivers on Xbox. But the market forces are the market forces. Spending is going down. The Switch 2 is sucking up all the oxygen in the room for the disposable income that people did have. And so you are seeing this. So we can talk about it in that way, or we can pretend. And I am pointing fingers at journalists as well. Not you, Paris. But I'm pointing fingers at.
Go ahead.
You, but hey, you're a great guy all around. The point is, journalists as well have been going along with this kind of talking point that these things are happening as a result of failures, and there's no reason to own an Xbox, and third-party publisher and all of this stuff, right? And the gamers there don't buy games. I've heard this from prominent journalists, right? Prominent content creators, that Xbox gamers don't buy games, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and the console is dead, and all of that. And yet, every publisher is now jumping on that dead platform, including their main competitor. So which way should we talk about this? Should we be logical about it? Should we just, celebrate that maybe when everybody plays, we all win? Or
you can't use logic.
Or do we go back to being messy? Because I can do both.
So here's something fun. I like to, at first when I started talking about the market forces, I looked at it from a market saturation standpoint, right? The market pressures are there. There's a textbook written by Professor Michael Porter from Harvard. It's an economics textbook. It's called the five forces of competition or something like that. And he breaks down these 5 forces, and one of them is other players, other entrants into the market. And another one is substitute products. And in gaming today, there's not a lack of those things. New players are coming in, and there's always a game of a game. Look at Wukong. There's Wu Chang. If you just point to a genre, there are at least a few games that are out there. And so when I look at that situation, I have to go back to what Lynn Azar said in the investor call for PlayStation. She's the financial lady. And she was asked a very specific question. There were numbers to that question. They said to her, you've been able to grow your business by X, Y, and Z. How do you intend to continue to evolve your business? So she said in that particular response, and this was pre-recorded, so they basically, this is not like an off-the-cuff answer and such. She mentioned possible price revisions of PlayStation Plus, appealing and enticing, people to the higher subscription tiers so they could actually spend more money, and potentially moving their first-party games off console. She said the words off console. She never said PC, because they talked about PC, and PlayStation has been very direct when they say things about PC. So in her mind, and in the minds of the executives, we're pushing to meet and to get investors to a place where they're comfortable, because investors are asking questions now. I've seen investors ask simple questions, and it's changed the entire trajectory of an entire publisher. The very first case in point was Tom Clancy's The Division 3. I remember when they were doing The Division 2, when they were winding down support for The Division 2, which is crazy. There was an investor call with Ubisoft. Yves Guillermo and one of the Guillermo brothers were sitting in the investor call, and this was live. It was a Q&A over the phone. And an investor said, with you guys now focusing development on Star Wars and Avatar, where are you going to get time to continue the Division franchise? What's crazy is he said, well, we have Division Heartland coming. They were making another Division free-to-play game or whatever it is then. I may or may not have been pulled in to alpha test it or whatever, but they were doing that game. And then all of a sudden they started talking about, canceling Heartland, and they canceled Heartland and then commissioned the development of the Division 2 right after Julian Garrity. He was the creative director for Star Wars Outlaws. Right after Outlaws got announced, they were like, oh yeah, Ubisoft is now going to be working on Division 3 after Insider Gaming had gotten word from within Ubisoft that they had no plans for the Division 3. But investors were looking at the Division franchise as a franchise that already had a solid player base and a branding, because about 40 million, which is pretty much almost the same number of people who played Forza, Horizon 5, had played the game. And so Ubisoft pretty much did an about face in terms of looking at a possibility, because investors had already basically seen it and would probably be asking, why are you not capturing this? I look at the PlayStation executives listening very carefully to their investors, saying, how are you going to evolve your business? That was the question that gentleman asked, and she mentioned those things. So from that perspective, all bets are off. When Paris says there is a single player game that's coming, and, I'm thinking to myself, the driving force of this single player game coming is the fact that they want to meet these goals for their investors. So whether it's Helldivers 2, whether it's, Aloy, whether it's Peter Parker, whoever is going to bring us to that point, we're going to go over there, because we've sold as many copies as we're probably going to sell, on Steam. Steam has basically tapered off. There's just a lot of competition there. So Everborn, to your question, do we go with it from a logical perspective, or do we stay messy? We keep the logic in play, because the information is out there for us. And yes, let the, in quote, journalists say what they want to say. At the end of the day, once we can get information from the industry players, we're fine. You can let them just talk, but they become a YouTube video. That's all when they say something that's off base, that doesn't follow what the executives are saying or whatnot. I mean, look at even Sean Layden, who kept saying, that exclusivity was the Achilles heel of a video game. And on Destin's podcast, when Destin had him for an interview, he said exclusivity was viable when you could make a game for $5 million. And then in the same breath, he said the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, which was very strange when he actually, put for Xbox, for PlayStation putting their games on Xbox, right? So he PlayStation fanned his way into that answer, but was still able to give an economic reality. So the question was, okay, let's put a question mark on, is the juice worth the squeeze? But we're very aware that video game development right now is very expensive. We're very aware now that costs are high. We're very aware that discretionary spending among U.S. Gamers, or in fact among U.S. spenders, is low. So with these economic realities, opportunity cost, scarcity, how are developers going to now approach their business? And they are already telling us, Square Enix, from their own words, we're seeking a much more multi-platform focus. Why? Because their biggest markets, which is here in the West, they cannot afford to levy a $500 tax on them to play the next Final Fantasy game. It's insane that you would request, and it's indirect request. Oh, you want to play our game? Why don't you go blow $500 to play the game? I want to say, and I'm going to say, because Paris made a big, bold claim about a possible PlayStation game coming, I want to be bold enough to hypothesize that Rockstar might give a PC launch quicker than anyone would even imagine.
Wow.
As much as everybody wants to say this, look at the economic factors, Rockstar. People will wait to buy your game on sale. So what do you need? Do you need day one purchases to maximize sales? You bet, Mr. Zelnick, you need to tell your engineers to start seeing what they can do, because you're making a Series S port. That already is your key to a large PC player base.
So VG, give me one moment.
Yes, sir.
Because this is one of those days where we're just going to be doing this for a little bit. And because it can't be denied, there's a lot to be talked about. First off, I know, Paris, you said you have a short amount of time with us, and you wanted to.
Yeah, well, I was like, I didn't want to take up too much of your time, and here we are. No, it is all good.
No worries.
Go for
you
it.
had one chat you wanted to address, and I wanted to let you address that. And I also have a question I have for you. And then we also have the great Game Logic also joining the fray, because it is one of those days. He is cleanly shaven and ready for intellectual battle. Oh yeah, we appreciate you being here, sir. But before you do that, let me catch up on that super chat real quick that I think, Paris, you said you wanted to quickly chat about.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question to it.
DKNY He asked for the $20 super chat, and we'll get to all the super chats, but we're jumping this one because you wanted to ask real quick. He says he's been a die-hard PlayStation fan since the PS1 days, and he and I see a single player, and he sees it as a single player, right? Sony game on Xbox. Then he'll move to PC and he'll buy a 6090 when it launches. What was your statement with that?
Yeah, and it was a question back, and this is not because I'm just genuinely curious. So you're a diehard PlayStation fan. A game that you already have available to you on PlayStation shows up on Xbox. Why would that then make you decide, well, I'm done having a PlayStation console, I'm just going to go build a PC? You said 6090 to hell. Who knows how much that's going to cost? My question again is, you've already had the ability to build a PC and make that move. So why would a game showing up on an Xbox platform now mean, well, I'm done with PlayStation, I'm just going to PC? Why not just stick with PlayStation? Because the games are still coming to PlayStation. You're not losing anything. And if anything, hell, the Xbox games are coming there too. So you're getting those. So it's just kind of an out loud general question. I know he probably can't answer it right away, but I asked that because there's obviously a very infamous video that is out right now since the Helldivers 2 announcement, essentially saying the same thing. Again, we're trying to be logical here. It makes no sense. Okay. If you love PlayStation, a game showing up on Xbox, and it goes vice versa. If you love Xbox, just because the Xbox game shows up somewhere else, why would you?
Shouldn't change your mind necessarily in one way or another. I understand that. I understand
that.
That is a logical thought. Go ahead, everyone.
Gets lost, if I may, is that, and I always use people like my kids and my manager. These are two ends of the spectrum at work. Who is around my age, maybe a single digit years older, right? He's just always had an Xbox, but you know what he plays? He plays Call of Duty, he plays Fortnite, he plays Minecraft. He doesn't even know about these other games, but when it was time for him to buy a console, he just bought an Xbox because that's just what he always got. And then on the other end of the spectrum is my kids who don't care where a thing is.
Exactly.
Right. And I know that we've heard, well, they don't care because they're not spending the money. But my manager, who I'm going to presume makes more money than me, is spending the money. And he just bought what he knew because that's where his library was. And I think we get really caught in that 4% of gamers who buy multiple games a month, or the 12% who buy one game a month. But really, like that other 84% of gamers who are either not buying a game in a whole year or only buying one game a year, right? A lot of them are not having this conversation.
True. Very true.
Right?
And we feel sometimes that like our conversation is the conversation, because yes, for us that is the conversation, but we need to sometimes recognize that we are a minority in this. Absolutely.
And by the way, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Helldivers going onto the Xbox is not going to affect the PlayStation brand in any way.
No, not at all.
Maybe on the timeline it will. Maybe it'll kill some narratives, but I don't think it's going to affect their console sales, meaning it's going to make them less. I don't think it's going to make Xbox sell any more than they would have anyway. And I think it's going to be business as usual. You know why? Because it's a mature market. And people kind of are locked into their libraries.
Real quick, I want to let Logic in. I want to let Paris know. You may have a few things to say before you got to go, but before we do, real quick, let me catch up on a couple super chats. There's a couple that's growing, and I want to make sure I respect those who spent their time and their hard-earned dollars to leave us some messages. So we'll catch up on those. I also want to say shout out to the great Dr. Dry Rub. He is the reason I get to say that on a Saturday morning. Shout out to the awesome Dr. Dry Rub, who not only came here.
Why do you say it during the week then?
Because he's always in our chat. That's why. But on the weekend, you know, on a Saturday morning when I want to refrain from using such innuendo, I have no choice but to, because he continues to be so prolific. He has given us codes that we will now raffle off. If you see in the bottom there, I've let it scroll for a while now. We're talking about, and this is all Steam codes, let's be clear. We're talking about Spider-Man Miles Morales. We're talking about Uncharted, The Lost Legacy, Legacy of Thieves collection. We're talking about God of War. He was prolific this morning because, he was like, PlayStation's going third party, so might as well just go ahead and do that. So you have a chance to win one of these codes. All you need to do is hashtag Dr. Dry Rub Rules in the chat. You put that in there, you win. I will draw out 3 names. You pick from the DMs which one you want. You have your choice. Again, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Uncharted, and God of War. If you don't have those as part of your collection, that is awesome part of the collection. Thanks to Dr. Dry Rub. So again, please, if you haven't done so already, it's scrolling down. Dr. Dry Rub Rules. Put it in there. Now let's quickly catch up on a couple of these super chats, and then we'll get back to the conversation. Now, of course, where we left off was the man who has joined us on the panel. We left off with VG Fight School with a $2 super chat saying full third. Actually, you know what, sir? How about you do this one yourself? Do this one.
Full third party. It's a monster. It's actually like it's a fairy tale monster.
Yeah. I expected him to get very vicious this morning, so here we go. This is going to be one of them shows. Clearly, thank you for being here, and thank you for your patronage, sir. We appreciate you. Hollywood Rules, member for 4 months. He says, "Good morning, my fellow graybeards. Boy, we have all lived long enough to see never happening and hell freezing over the whole damn slate." Oh,
hell divers freezing over.
Oh, hell divers. Well, yeah.
He didn't say that. I'm saying that.
But we should infer. Thank you, Dr. Dry Rub. See, I'm doing this again. And thank you, Hollywood Rules, for your patronage. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Now, he's not done. He has another $2 super chat, and he says, "Boy, the bottles of Coke are flying off the shelves." I wonder what the labels of the bottles of Coke are. I would love to know what those bottles are labeled. Anyway, the real big rich with a $5 super chat. He says, "Shout out to all y'all good brothers with great intellectual conversation." Thank you. We try to do that, even though this morning might be a little bit messier than normal. It's just one of those days. It is what it is. And I think we've only touched half
the
of the conversation.
half of the conversation is going to get very dark. This is
indeed
the fun part of the conversation.
Yes. And then, of course, JD Gamer starts his prolific run. Here we go. He starts with a $10 super chat. He says, "For all those people that were crashing out on Xbox, all the people that questioned why diminish the brand like that, for all the Xbox / PlayStation players that said, how will they make money? What about PlayStation now?" He is here for that. He is here for that smoke, like really here for that smoke. Okay, so that's his first part of it. And then let's see. Oh, hold on. We have Face BKNY with a $20 super chat. He says, so if a Sony first party single player game goes to Xbox 5 years later, you guys gonna be like, I was right? Question mark.
Okay.
So I guess he wants a statute of limitations for his
wait a minute.
For the proclamation.
How long did it take Sea of Thieves to come to the PlayStation?
So let me jump in on that too, because this is one of my points of grievance, and I have a lengthy list of points of grievance. And I'll join in with Face 23 BKNY.
Go ahead.
Push back on Everborn and push back on Paris. So
okay,
I personally am not gonna give grace for predictions ad infinitum with no limit on them. Eventually, it's going to happen. I have said in the past that eventually we're all going to be in the cloud because it makes zero sense.
Yeah,
0 cents for Everborn to have a PC, for TK to have a PC, for me to have 5 PCs, and all of us to be using like literally like 15% of the total power that's available on those PCs. And so the ecology of the world and the price of energy is eventually going to drive us to the point where it doesn't make sense for people to have personal PCs and everybody's going to be using shards in the cloud, right? I've said that. But does that mean that I'm right in that prediction? Like if it happens like 30, 40, 50 years from now? Everborn, I'm going to specifically push back on you because you and I had an argument 2 years ago where you told me that gaming on mobile would be a viable replacement and good enough for people who wanted to play premium style games, right? The Apple TV conversation. That was 2 years ago. You put a 5-year horizon on that, and sir, your counter is almost 50% gone. And I don't think we're any closer. So my point is that I feel like I agree with 23BK and why I feel like if we're gonna put predictions out there, they need to have some level of time bound on them to make them relevant. I don't think it's fair as a content creator to put out predictions and then just like not have any horizon on when we expect that to happen.
So 2 things. Our discussion was things like the Apple TV and looking at, can it run those games and would it be viable? And it's a similar prediction to yours in the cloud. Now, I may be more optimistic. I think you had 12 years for the cloud. And I said, and again, that's cloud, right? I'm betting on the advancements in ARM, right? And I believe within the next 5 years, I don't know if it'll be an Apple TV, but Apple is making like encroachments into gaming, and they're all ARM, right? So maybe I'm off. We'll see what happens in the next 3 years, but I will still bet, and I think 5 years is a good time horizon to make that kind of bet, that you will see ARM devices running AAA games. So that's thing one.
ARM devices run AAA games now, and they have been for a while.
Right, but how many more games will be ported to something like an Apple TV? Will Apple put a good enough chip for that to happen?
According to the data that we've seen most recently, I don't know that many more, given that the ones that were most recently put on the Apple chip didn't do well financially.
Yeah,
but
is it possible? Yes, but did it sell? No.
But the point is that we can have this argument back and forth. But the point is that I feel like in a manner of due diligence, right? We should be putting some type of time bound on prediction so that they're not just open ended.
Right. And your time bound for cloud was 12 years. My time bound for mobile was 5. And we'll see how that plays out in 3 and 10 more years. Right. Now, the other thing
to go back to this one though, about the when is a Sony first party single player title going to show up on Xbox? Do we have a time bound on that prediction? If that's what
I would say within 12 to 18 months. Is that?
Ooh.
And Paris, are you in the same place?
Yeah, I would say it's going to be in this generation. I don't think it's far off. I'm not saying PlayStation 7 or anything crazy like that. I think it happens in the next few years. Yes.
So, but you said this generation. So you're saying before the PlayStation 6 launches?
Correct.
Okay.
And let's be clear here, since we're talking about this. Yeah. This is just a thing of looking at what the traditional console market was 5 years ago. We're starting to see it evolve. Xbox is being extremely aggressive with it for a variety of reasons, as we know. But we're seeing PlayStation take a more methodical approach. And there's nothing wrong with that. And this is why I even said before, I don't think they're going day and date on Xbox with single player. I'm not saying that at all. But I do see them experimenting and going, well, hey, what if, like we talked about Horizon. What if we put Horizon over there? Let's see how it does. If it's successful, guess what? They're going to continue to do it. Is my point on that. And if you listen to what their new leadership has been saying, they are clearly open to this now.
Yeah,
that's all. It's not the closed garden that it used to be. It's open. It's starting to open up.
So Paris,
I agree, Paris.
My one nit of pushback on you is, and I think you've either heard me say this or read that I've said this before. My pushback is that the industry is always evolving. That's not new.
100%.
It has been for 50 years. We evolved through microtransactions. We evolved through different manners of monetization besides just buying. We evolved through price changes. If you go back and read in the 70s, right, and Atari and the arcade age, you will read things about how during those old-fashioned structures for governance, in terms of getting a game design approved, it was oriented around how did the game loop constrain you so that you would be incentivized to put another quarter in the machine? And there were metrics associated with that, right? And then clearly those structures, right, those management frameworks for greenlighting stuff changed. So my only thing is like the industry is always evolving, it's always changing. That's nothing new. The specifics of how it is evolving and changing, sure, I feel like that's an open discussion. I feel like there's been this voice or volume around like the industry's changing as if it's revolutionary or something new, and I'm like, it's not. It happens constantly all the time. We're constantly dealing with it.
So, yeah, and you're not wrong. You know, let me respond to that. Yeah. And you're not wrong on that, and that's totally fair. Again, I like to try to clarify some of my ways of thinking about this stuff. And we can go back to a Sean Layden conversation. You can look at what other people have said. Making AAA games is way more expensive than it. The cost of making AAA games has exploded. The time to make AAA games has also exploded. So unless they're able to resolve that, make dev times less, the cost of games less, sure, it could shift back to what it used to be. But what I think my point on it is we're seeing how much things cost. Where are you getting the return on investment? And that's why I think you're seeing these experimentations. Obviously, Xbox said, screw it, everything's everywhere. And I think this is why PlayStation is looking at something similar. Obviously, when we look at Nintendo, they don't make cutting edge hardware, and they've been able to keep their dev costs down, and it has worked for them. So they have zero incentive to put their games on other platforms, where we're seeing the other two have started to do it. That's all I'm saying.
Going back to one thing that VG said, so VG mentioned some of the statements made during the Investor Week pre-recorded session between the three people in leadership within the PlayStation division, and I think the overall corporate VP of finance. But I did want to add another thing that was said during that, right, despite the other comments, was that they saw no need to pivot in terms of their strategy at the scale of their competitor, and they were definitely ghosting a reference to Xbox. So that should be given voice also, I think.
So Logic, and I don't know if VG might be on mute, so I don't know if he's here, but
I was just waiting. I was gonna go ahead.
Really quick. Did they say they didn't need to pivot, or did they say, as you said, they didn't need to, or was the at the scale of their competitor implied, right? Because I don't remember them saying we don't need to. I remember them saying we don't need to pivot. I don't remember them saying at the scale of their competitor. So is that just what you implied because of that question?
I may have thrown the term scale in, but they definitely said that they didn't need to either pivot or change their strategy, and they definitely said like their competitor.
He's correct. Nishino did say that Nishino-san did mention that they saw no need to pivot, but again, to be fair, right after he says that, we're seeing Helldivers 2 on here. Now, that probably indicates that they're probably not interested in pivoting at scale. However, the investors are asking the financial people and saying, "Hey, how are you guys going to get us to an operating marginal income of 10% or cumulative? I mean, they have a number, 10%." Or more is the number. So in order for them to reach that number, as much as they may not want to pivot, they're going to take steps to go ahead and do that. Game Logic, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, BG.
I've always wanted to get you two guys in the same discussion. So I'm actually like I'm a little fanned out that you two guys are here, but I do want to add a little bit of adobo to this soup that we're cooking here.
Notice he didn't say me. He don't care about me.
Well, you're always here, Paris. You live here. These are guests. So the question is, just so that we have a foundation, and this is for you, Logic, just because you're on the other side of it, which I think is good. I hate podcasts that are all yes men. So I'm actually happy that you joined here. But do you consider Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox as a pivot or a part of the same strategy? And if you do consider it a part of the same strategy, did you always expect them to port their own first party games to Xbox when they said off platform?
So let's get into that. It may get a little bit meandering. So let me start by answering your question, going back to your thing about the third party labels. Let me go a little upstream of that. So first of all, we're having a business assessment conversation. We are not having a fan and brand equity conversation. I think I took that off the table yesterday with the blog post that I put out that said, and I mentioned John Wolf and I talked about it a little bit in chat. If you're secure in your identity as a gamer, then your identity as a gamer is not tightly coupled to the notion of a brand or brand equity. So if you're in your feelings because of something Xbox has done or something PlayStation has done, that's a you problem. So that's not what I'm addressing here today. But we're talking about the assessment of the business. And you said the application of the label to Xbox or PlayStation as third party. So for me, and I also would contend that I think this is the way most, I'll say English speakers, because I don't know if there are different linguistic differences and dialect differences, right, in other countries. I think within the English language, we tend to apply labels to things based on the majority aggregate of the properties around that thing, right? And so if I have an apple and it is 90% green and it has a green splotch, 90% red, and it has a green splotch on the back of it, the size of a thumbprint, we don't call that a green apple. We call that a red apple. We also do not say, largely in context, that Apple, the company, is an entertainment company because of the fact that they do Apple TV Plus and have some first party series. They are still a hardware company. We talk about them a little bit more today as a hardware and services company, but we don't compare them. We don't put them in the same bucket with NBC Universal, right? And Disney. We talk about them as a hardware company. We don't talk about Google as a smartphone company. Really, we know that they are an ad and search company, right? So when we talk about the application, if I talk about Microsoft or Xbox as a third-party publisher, that is because in my mind, when you go to, let's just say, the initial greenlight meeting, I think that 51% of the airtime in that conversation is oriented around what platforms is that game going to. And I don't think that that's the same conversation in the same context that happens in a PlayStation boardroom at the initial greenlight meeting. I think that conversation is mostly around what is that game design? What is it going to do for people on the PlayStation platform on the hardware? And then an ancillary conversation, like maybe 10-ish% or less, is a discussion that, hey, down the road, we're going to need to bring Nixes into the room and talk about this thing going to other platforms. I think that's the contextual delta, right, in the language. And the last thing I'll say before, I let Everborn or whoever else respond, Everborn, one of your things was, people talk about these things and apply different standards. And my feeling is the application of different standards isn't willy-nilly, and I'm talking about the business assessment. It's because there are differences, right? When we talk about the PlayStation games that have gone onto other consoles, there is some delta. They're licensed properties, right? Helldivers is not an internal SIE-owned studio. And to say that their excuses, to me, feels like we're being dismissive of the data points that you mentioned, and therefore disabling an ability to have a nuanced, detailed, granular conversation about what these things are, and then have a conversation about the different timelines that you and Paris prescribed, right? Where you said 12 to 18 months or 15 to 18 months, and Paris said within the generation, right? I assume that there are reasons why there are deltas behind your guys' predictions. And I feel like that has to do with those granular differences in the way both of these companies are going about their strategies about putting content onto their platforms and what content they're picking. I'll go back to one thing that Phil said, and we're going to dig back through a lot of things that, have been said, right? And the result of where things are between the mea culpa, right? Between the Redfall mea culpa and the business update of February 2024, right? Phil specifically talked about how the games that are going to go to other platforms are going to go through this rigorous process, right? That there's going to be a triage, that there's going to be what does it do for our business if we keep the game on our platform? How long has the game been on our platform? Has its revenue tail been expired and primarily exhausted? Does it not hurt us to go to another platform, right? That was a conversation that was around in February of 2024 and being articulated. Jump ahead 3 months later, and it was there's no red line. Also concurrently, after the business update in February 2024, there was also the interview with, I think, Tom Warren, right, with The Verge, right? And this goes back to, I think somebody said in the chat, or maybe it was somebody, right? It wasn't a comment that it's just 4 games, and then people extrapolated and jumped ship. What people heard, in addition to the just 4 games, is it's just 4 games, and we're going to learn. And as a corporate executive, you don't say, and we're going to learn, if it is not your intention to repeat the same actions that you did, thereby taking advantage of the things that you learned from the first 4 games, right? And in the interview with Tom Warren, he was specifically asked, I think it was Tom Warren, he was specifically asked, are you saying Starfield will never go? Are you saying, and I forget, it was one other game, are you saying this other game will never go?
Indiana Jones. Bold-faced lies.
Yeah, and he said, I'm not going to sit here and say that those games are never going to go, right? So I don't think it's a balanced assessment to say he said just 4 games and people jump ship or wildly extrapolate. There are reasons people extrapolated. It's because of the other things that he said.
Well, I do remember after that business update when we're on XCast, we even said, yeah, it's just 4 games now, but we know that's not going to be it. So people that only took it as, hey, it's just going to be 4 games, they were fooling themselves. Because again, if the 4 games, and obviously Sea of Thieves, I think of that 4 was the most successful, showed them a path of, wow, we're seeing interest on this platform. They're going to bring more. It just makes sense. And that's why, again, because you're talking about timelines for potentially a single player game. If they experiment and decide to put a single player game on Xbox and it is successful, and that's why I kind of said Spider-Man would be the logical one in my opinion, because the IP is the most brand aware. If it's successful, hey, let's put Horizon there. Oh, let's put Uncharted there. At that point, again, I'm not saying day and date. I want to be crystal clear. I'm just saying that it opens up another revenue stream for them because now you're bringing that game to more people that potentially didn't have access to it before. And as I said previously, I think all of this is being spurred by the fact that development costs are out of control, development times are out of control. And as we're seeing as a part of these layoffs with Xbox right now, you had games like Everwild and Perfect Dark that were 5, 6, 7, 10 years in development. And at some point you got to pull the plug. So for the health of, and this is my opinion, I'm not a financial expert or anything. It's just me looking at it from the outside looking in. For the health of their businesses and obviously the industry as a whole, they're trying something different to, obviously you got to appease the shareholders, keep revenue up, all these things. And it's not going to change unless we see a reversal. And I think someone in the chat even talked about AI development, unless we see a reversal on how expensive it is to make games. And what sucks about that is, and this is why I brought up AI, who's going to pay for that? Game devs. You're going to see less jobs. So I don't want that to happen. Yeah, I don't want that to happen. Let's be clear. But that's where I'm starting to see
happening already, though. It seems to be happening, you know. Yes.
So before I turn it over to you, Ever, I just want to hook into one other thing Paris said so that you can do your rebuttal with everything included. So I just want to emphasize that from my perspective, it's not just about revenue. Right. And going back to Sean Layden's juice worth the squeeze, and that is a tropism that I often use also. It's got to be worth it. Right. Helldivers also has to be worth it. And to me, that's a wait and see. That's not a prediction we can make today. Everborn, you talked about, it exposes the game to 35 million more people. Well, right. Of which you will hope to land some of those. And you will hope to keep some of them engaged. And I'm also not going to sit here and allow there not to be a discussion that the primary competition for Helldivers 2, as it is for any game that deploys on Xbox, is Game Pass. And the 500 games that are in it are more. Because people are going to make choices, right? Just like you talked about how they spend their time. And so that game is a paid game. It needs to show up on Xbox. It needs to be bought. And then the player base needs to be engage, because there's not just upfront costs of porting the game, which I think is relatively low because you were already on the same abstraction layer by putting it on PC, but there's O&M costs associated with that as well, right? There's configuration management associated with it. As you implement new features on the PC and the PlayStation branch, you verily have to also implement those on the Xbox branch with any of those
Logic,
deltas. Yeah.
Just a question about that, right? And this is just a question that came to mind. This game, which we all know as an Xbox, a PlayStation brand and a PlayStation game, does run on PlayFab and started its life and continues to run on Azure. Does that have any factor in the equation?
That definitely that definitely levels any. It definitely levels any delta you would have associated with integration with infrastructure. But it
started its life running on Microsoft infrastructure.
But it's still a different version, and it's still a different branch.
True.
Those versions aren't synonymous. And at risk, it's in the thing saying Xbox paid that cost. I mean, if that's a matter of public record, point me to it.
Yeah, I don't know that we have those public.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a decent assumption, but I don't even know. But I don't know that we have anything. Maybe Riskit has heard something. I haven't heard anything.
My only point is that the game has to go to Xbox. The game has to do well. Players need to remain engaged so that it justifies the cost that you're expending on further development and further O&M. It doesn't make it
and maintenance costs and all of that.
Even if you're making a nickel of revenue, it doesn't make any difference if the number of people remaining engaged in the game aren't sufficient to, again, warrant the juice versus the squeeze.
Yeah.
So here, I wanted to chime in something real quick.
Yeah.
This is something that right now, and I can't help it. You know, I am super. I think in my mind, anyways, I like to see subversion happen in markets. I don't know what it is. It's just fascinating that sometimes somebody who may be holding the ball can lose it, and it's out of their control, right? Because if not, we have monopoly. So sometimes they pass the ball around, or something happens, and somebody else takes the ball, temporarily, or somebody causes the ball and doesn't even do anything. Maybe stomps on their foot, and they're like, "Ow!" They drop the ball. You look at what Xbox is doing, and I know, it's nice to make, predictions with some timelines, but I'd say Xbox has already decided before any PlayStation game would even come to the Xbox ecosystem to go to those games with its own community in mind. So their gamers are in a vehicle, and they're driving their gamers into a broader gaming industry where they've claimed that they want to they don't want to consign their gamers to one store. So you're getting an Xbox console, handheld, possibly other consoles later down the road, that are going to give you access to these PlayStation games anyways. So whether or not they're interested in bringing the game to the Xbox current storefront, I don't think I may just be the one, or I may be dismissive, but I don't think it's relevant anymore, because I want to try to apply the same standards as somebody who's a PC gamer to the new Xbox gamer, because the Xbox gamer is now going through a transformation of and as Satya said, we want to redefine what an Xbox fan is, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going through a transformation of what it means to be an Xbox gamer. So I, as a PC gamer, when somebody says, "Oh yeah, where is this game?" I say the game is on PC. And then if the game is maybe not available on Epic Games, I'll be like, okay, the game is available on Steam. But Marvel Spider-Man 1 and 2 are available on the Epic Games Store and Steam.
But so, VG, if I'm tracking you correctly, and again, this isn't a matter of how people feel about it, right? But those games aren't the same value prop.
Yes,
like we have Xbox fans who themselves said the reason Final Fantasy 16 and 7 Integrate didn't do well on Xbox was because the game showed up 2 years late and skipped them the first time.
I understand.
Okay.
I clearly do understand that. But again, like I said, I will apply the same standards that I apply to myself and PC gamers to the new Xbox gamer. So this way, I'm not, and this is where I lack this is why you're seeing me. And I think I said this on Proto Rock's podcast. I said my latest fascination is the Xbox console. And that goes into with understanding what the Xbox gamer sees. But I also have to say, I can't see it from that perspective, but there's a perspective that I'm seeing it from, where you will have access in the Xbox ecosystem to whatever games may have been, in a sense, sequestered from the Xbox console, should you continue to be in this generation. So now your library is respected, you have no fear or FOMO of missing out on a game. Even though you may have indirect access to that game, you now have access to that game anyways. So whether or not PlayStation decides, oh, we're going to drop Spider-Man, I say this holiday, the Xbox gamer play Spider-Man on their Xbox console. Forget the Steam store, the Epic Games store, because here, even in our PC side, you have the choice of going either to the Epic Games store or the Steam store to play that. Sure, it's a different value prop. Sure, it's sitting behind a $700 device, right? But this is usually the case as consoles have usually leaped generations. There have been caveats as well where some games may not necessarily be available, or there are these challenges. If you look at the Capcom Fighters collection, when Capcom was trying to launch the game, there were drawbacks based on the technology having been used for that same game on the previous generation until they were able to sort it out. Now, there are also more games that are also locked behind, other generations of consoles. So the Xbox gamer may be in the place where they say, okay, I would prefer a traditionalist view where PlayStation was launching those games. And I've had a lot of people actually tell me that. And I say, well, that layer of gaming is one that is designed to maybe, like you said, a value prop behind the PlayStation. I see it as, perception more than reality. Once their bank account starts to state otherwise, they will break the curtain, and they'll find a way to break the curtain. They will probably do it with subtlety. They'll probably do it with, something of we only want to use this perspective, or we want to go this way. Like Herman Holtz, when he said, we're bringing our games to PC in hopes that PC gamers would subsequently play sequels on our PlayStation console. It was shocking to me because at the time he said
that's ridiculous.
There were sequels that were basically going to PC. Like he was saying it, and there was Last of Us Part 2, there was Spider-Man Part 2. And I was like, which sequels are we going to play? There's Miles Morales, there's Spider-Man on PC. So maybe he had the hope, but the hope and the reality probably not aligning. And the new Xbox gamer is going to be redefined the moment they grab an Xbox and they look and say, wait, you mean to tell me I have access to all of this and all this variety? And so come this holiday, any Xbox gamer who chooses will be able to play PlayStation games available anywhere else. Whether or not PlayStation wants to bring those games to the traditional Series S and X console is a prerogative. And as Paris said, he said he may or may not have had a conversation about a specific game going to PlayStation and was told, would it make sense for us to spend time working on the port for this game or making a new game? So what if PlayStation never sees it as viable to even work on a Spider-Man port? Should the Xbox gamer sit there waiting for 5 years? Or should he just continue to invest in the ecosystem that he's already dialed into and then go ahead and just install Steam and then buy the game and have access to the game on their Xbox? Xbox is taking care of its basis, in my opinion, using its innovation. And at the end of the day, PlayStation has to realize, yes, they stand to benefit from it, but the narrative is going to spread. Like you see, Xbox is now in the business of actually doing perception and also marketing and also value proposition as well. In fact, I think it's even much more apparent now that they probably knew about this Helldivers announcement. And I think, let me put my tinfoil hat on. Where is this? Okay. And I think
we call them koofies here. We call them koofies.
Okay,
continue, sir. Go ahead.
Let me put it on. They probably went ahead to stack the bad news of the layoffs right before that Helldivers announcement. I've seen some folk on the PlayStation side say, they announced it later. No. Sony would have scheduled that announcement and it would have already been in the pipeline. I don't know. I think it probably was convenient enough to do so. So now everyone is playing the perception game. This is an Xbox, an entire marketing campaign based on part, reality and part perception. And so as much as, the traditionalist style of, the delivery of games is paramount to maybe Xbox gamers, I say it's time for us to start getting that broader view of what the ecosystem is going to bring. And I think at that point in time, PlayStation would probably be wise to even make moves like this, like the Helldivers move, to actually put a question mark on the new Xbox hardware. So I don't know. I think it opens up the room for a chessboard for them to play, some really silly games.
So one thing I didn't track with you, VG. You said come this fall, Xbox players, and we're talking about Xbox players who choose to buy the
Xbox Ally.
ROG Xbox Ally or Ally X. would be able to play PlayStation games that are available anywhere else
on Steam. Yes.
But okay, so you mean PlayStation games that are available on PC? Obviously, not the PlayStation games that are only available on PlayStation.
Yes, on Steam, and there's some available on Good Old Games, so they have those options as well for DRM-free versions, and then they also have access to Epic Games as well. I've been talking about the possibility of gamers who play on console to go ahead and get an Epic Games account and just take advantage of the free games. Some people have Amazon Prime, take advantage of those games as well. They go to Epic Games and Good Old Games as well. Those are free games, and you just build a gaming library organically before you ever dream of getting a PC. Don't worry, you may never use it. It's fine. You've created it. But here, I never envisioned that any day that the Xbox would even do this. My thinking was the traditionalist view that they would probably eventually say, okay, the value proposition in console is probably not enough. Let me go build a PC. But now Xbox is delivering that experience at the doorstep of the Xbox gamer with this device as, I think, a test subject. And seemingly it's coming across the board with their other consoles. So as much as I may have been looking at it from that perspective, I think Xbox has me beat in terms of, no, we're taking it to even a different position where we're even going to now curate a software experience, and the Xbox Ally X is going to be also the beta testing. I'm down for that. I'm happy to get one, and I'll love to tear it apart and figure out what it's going to look like. But I think it's going to be a beta test because Asus also can absorb some of the damage if the thing doesn't really hit home, and it's going to be a shared thing with them and Asus, and by the time they're bringing it to their Xbox console, I think it really does work for the Xbox gamer. The Xbox gamer right now is, I'm almost envious of you if I wasn't already a PC gamer. That's my perspective.
So one thing I want to ask you guys to help me true up in my understanding of your predictions and your views of the future, and then I'll subject myself to cross-examination. If your prediction is that PlayStation within the next 12 to 18 months or this generation is going to start putting its games on Xbox, the console, then what sense does it make in making an Xbox PC hybrid?
Okay, I can answer that very simply.
To be fair, and I'll put a quick stab in this one, and I'll let you go, VG. I don't think their hybrid solution was specifically for PlayStation to be able to play PlayStation games, right? It's a different proposition.
No. I'm saying if the prediction is that PlayStation is going to start putting its games on Xbox, the console, if Helldivers 2 going to the console is the first of an impending switch in strategy,
then why would they need a hybrid console? But what we're saying
which is going to be more
that hybrid console. That hybrid console solution was not to solve the PlayStation coming over as a problem. That was never the problem they were trying to solve. That may be.
But what I'm saying, TK, is if PlayStation games are coming over to the console, then why would you not just have a just console SKU, which would then enable you to play Xbox console games and PlayStation console games? Okay. I know they're trying to address a different problem with the Xbox PC hybrid in aggregate, but that thing is going to be more expensive than a traditional console.
Go ahead, Everborn.
So one thing that has really been stuck in my craw about this conversation about the strategy shift of what they're trying to make Xbox is like, it is because this is how the industry and the discourse works. It is entirely wrapped around PlayStation, right? When we hear the Xbox is sort of transitioning to a software layer that is PC, that's the only thing people want to know is, will it run PlayStation games? Forget about all the other benefits of PC. That is like 10% of the conversation, and it is all just, well, what about PlayStation? How does it affect PlayStation? Will PlayStation block the games? Is there it is bigger than that. That's thing one.
The question I would ask though, everyone, is that opening console players up to the content that's on PC assumes that addressable market will see that as a value prop. Whereas today, they clearly don't, right? At least they don't above the $500 price point that consoles have traditionally.
Small caveat. Small caveat.
Well, I mean,
a small.
Go ahead, VJ.
I don't know that the size of the caveat really matters, right? It's the point is that it's a caveat. Right?
Okay, let me quickly interject. So, as a content creator, one of the major focuses of how I make my videos is based on community feedback, the comment section. And I've made and constantly make videos surrounding how, gamers can move their gaming to PC. One of the major constraints to a lot of gamers is they don't want to deal with the logistics, hardware.
PC-ness. Yes. PC.
And I've seen this firsthand.
And that's one, along with the cost, I would say, as well.
Yes, there's a size, but I've taken my time to actually try my best to solve the cost.
Sysadmin, by the way, is what Logic calls it.
So sysadmin. Okay.
We call it tweaking and twerking. He calls it sysadmin.
The self-sysadmin.
So issues like that. So with the cost, I took time to actually build PCs with my community stating the budget. My community literally put the budget out there, and I went and built those PCs for them. And I showed that the costs are not the big, curve in terms of the obstacles that they need to scale. So some of them eventually said, all right, VG, you've shown us that there's a pathway forward. Now our biggest qualms is we don't want to deal with all of the sysadmin, as you would call it. And so that addressable market is interested in the possibility that there's something behind the wall of the PC ecosystem they refuse to get out of.
I think that's jump into. That's so some, but not all.
Well, right? I'm not saying all. I can't even tell you how many people. I was just surprised to see that there were even people, saying, okay, this is where we are.
And I think the
Xbox and some of them have said, if Xbox were to do this on an Xbox console, I am dialed in. In fact, it got me to the point where I said, and I told them, I said, I don't think Xbox is going to give you Steam on the Xbox console. I was one of the first that doubted it. I said, I don't see how they're going to do that. Doesn't that undercut their market? They said to me, and their comments everywhere. I was shocked. I was educated, and they said Xbox is likely going to do this because that gives us avenue to a different market. And I said, if they do it, I'll buy that device as an eat crow moment. So here I am on the ropes for an Xbox Li-X because my community had been telling me that this is something, and some folk in the community, this is something that they would like to see. So, I shared your perspective at one point in time until I saw the interest, the behavior, and I was having the conversations.
So I think so one thing I would offer is I think I make a difference between what people say and how the market actually responds. I think we had a lot of people who claimed that when it was announced that they were going to go play Warzone on an iPad because it was such an amazing technological feat. And yet what actually happened was that the number of players on Call of Duty Warzone on iPad were insufficient for them to continue that as a going concern, right? As a business value stream. So I think that's one caveat I'd also say I agree with you, and I have often preached that gospel to console gamers as well. But our reach is not universal to the market. There's tons of the market that doesn't pay any attention to content creators.
Agreed.
And those people still have the perspective that they have, that PC gaming is complicated, that PC gaming is expensive, and that PC gaming may or may not have the content that is a value prop to them.
Agreed.
One thing I think to consider is that for a lot of consumers, there is such a thing as too much content that I don't want to be bothered with, content that I won't have to sift through, content that I don't, just a volume at scale that I don't necessarily want to be bothered with. Agreed. There's 19,000 games that come out on PC every year. There's 700 plus games that come out on console. So I think I understand, everyone, that you're saying that there is a potential value prop, or even that there is a raw material value associated, right? If I put it in that terms, with what that Xbox PC hybrid will be delivering. But I will also contend that some part of the market says that I'm a console gamer. The reason I'm asking the question about PlayStation is because PlayStation is a console oriented delivery platform, and Xbox today is a console oriented platform delivery platform. So when I ask the question, I'm just asking the question that's within my scope of the things that I care about.
Right. But it could also mean, even if you don't care about the other benefits of PC, even if you don't care about actually not being locked to a specific store, even if you don't care about whether or not you will have to pay for online, even if you don't care about emulation, even if you don't care about all the other things that come to PC, because you're a console gamer and you never had access to that and you don't know what you don't know. There is also just a benefit of getting access to all the third-party games that sometimes skip Xbox, but definitely are not bold enough to skip PC. And I would venture as far as to say, a lot of the consternation that you've seen from Xbox fans about missing games hasn't been around why can't I get God of War? Because they just understand that's a PlayStation game. But the idea that it locking off, and again, this is happening on its own without this, right? We're seeing less and less major third-party games, unless you're like a smaller studio that is either first time at bat or need technical support. And then you see those decisions being made in either direction. Anyone can pick up a game. See Stalker 2, see Black Myth Wukong, right? It could go either way with a smaller studio. But I think people look at that as fair games. It is when you miss a major game from a major publisher, and that is another benefit here, that even those games that Sony doesn't make, you will get access to in this model, even if you don't care about any other benefits for the PC. That being said, and I know we got to move on, because we do have to talk about those layoffs, and there's a lot to say there. But I would just want to come back, because I had been waiting for a while to get this answer, which is, I don't think I've ever gotten an answer as to whether Helldivers coming to PlayStation is a strategy shift. And when we talk about Herman Holtz saying things and whether they change or not, we can talk about how he said he treats multiplayer games going to PC, but that would require us to ignore Horizon Zero Dawn. And you may say, well, that was Lego. Okay, what about Until Dawn? That remake that came out on October 4th of 2024 was day and date on PC. What about Lost Soul Aside? And I know somebody in the chat is going to say, but that's a China hero thing. And I just feel like every time we come to a PlayStation situation that goes against the common talking knowledge, there's some reason, and I call it excuse. Some people, maybe Brap would call it nuance, but the point is, it's the same thing happening, but Sony's moving at a slower pace. And I just think it's okay to acknowledge that.
Hold on. Can we get Logic to just answer that one part so we can move on? Yeah. So we have 24 super chats to get a wrangle on, sir.
And I think it was actually two.
Do you think that them putting Helldivers 2 on Xbox is a pivot in their strategy, or does it always go along with the strategy that you saw they have in the first place?
Well, let me answer your second question, right? Which was the Herman Holtz thing. So I think, and I look at it as I look at those things differently. You're pointing to a quote Herman Holtz made in 2020. It's 5 years later. Is there a change? That to me, it stands in contrast to when I hear messages from Phil every 2 to 3 months, and then they change, right? So, I mean, there's a reason why the perception is different, because the cadence of the drumbeat is different. So that's just me.
So just slight. Well, forget about the slight pushback. We'll just call it pushback. Forget about. But the moment what was the delta from Horizon to Days Gone and all the other games? He said it, and then immediately they started porting games to PC, and now we're at as I counted, 24 games that they have.
Agreed. Yes, that in that 5 years, there have been over a dozen other games that have been ported.
Every 3 months. He said they've added a new game.
So this is the cadence was insane.
So this is my assessment in terms of the difference between the strategies and whether or not there's a pivot that's going on. The way I see it is that things that are of relatively low value don't knock against any notion of consumer brand equity associated with the PlayStation brand. That in terms of a governance structure, those things fall below a bar where anybody cares. But there are PlayStation properties that are marquee properties that I think are the reasons why people buy a PlayStation, that those are the things that are not being treated as equivalents. Those are the things that there's a discussion about them not going day and date. Those are the things that are under discussion to maybe not necessarily go to another platform. Your question on whether or not there's so I don't believe that governance framework and those measures have changed.
So
that is in contrast. Let me just wrap this up because TK wants us to go on. That is, to me, is in contrast between when I hear Phil say there's this whole flowchart decision process of like games that are going to go to other platforms, and then the next thing I hear is that flowchart seems to no longer be in effect, right? That there's no red line, and that's why in my mind they're different.
If I apply that standard, then I can go with Nishino's comment, or at least a version of that standard, where he said in that investor meeting, we see no need to pivot, and almost within a few weeks, Helldivers 2 is here. It is a pivot.
Right. So in my perspective, Helldivers 2 is not in the same bucket of marquee properties that I would count things that are made by Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch.
Can I? Sorry. I'm sorry.
Santa Monica.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, everyone. Finish up.
And I just want a yes or no from Logic. Is Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox a pivot or not? Forget about Xbox. Forget about Phil.
Not in my opinion.
So you always assumed a game like Helldivers would come to Xbox?
No, I did not. You're asking the difference.
That doesn't make it a pivot?
No. My business assessment. My business assessment of Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox was because I didn't see the business case for it to come to Xbox, meaning the effort associated with doing the lift to put it on PC, the resultant O&M that it's going to incur, versus the number of players that are on board, that are going to onboard, and the number of players that are going to pay for it, right? And that to me is a wait and see. So we don't know. We don't know what the outcome of that math is going to be yet, and what Sony's going to do, right? To stick with it and continue with it.
So here's the thing. I feel like we are, and are you saying that none of these single player games will ever come to Xbox because it won't be worth it, and Sony values them too much? Like, what's your line of a game that you think will never come to Xbox?
I'm saying that I believe that is the current strategy and the current governance framework.
Even though you said we shouldn't speak in long enough in indefinite terms, right? So
just let me answer that. I will readily admit, and this is part of, I think, our difference, right, in argumentative vectors. I will readily admit that there is a horizon at one point where I don't know, and I'm not going to sit here and say that either it will happen or it won't happen. This is a difference between the things that I say and a difference with other content creators who go around and say, this thing is inevitable, it will definitely happen. That's not the language that I use. The only thing I can assess is, what do I think the current decision-making is? And I've said that. And I've said that I think that there's a reason why the properties are being treated differently. I will absolutely admit to, I didn't see the business value, right, to the business in putting Helldivers 2 across, but I was wrong. But what the outcome of that is we need to wait and see.
So and I appreciate and respect that, right? I think, and again, I am on record. I think Brap was tagged in one of these posts that I made, that I can't see a God of War coming over. I can't see that, and I'm happy to be wrong. But we live in such a time where so many things have happened in the last 3 years that I'm not ruling anything out, right? And me saying a single player, just give me 1 second here. Me saying I think a single player game will come in the next 12 to 18 months is a guess. I'm not saying it will. I'm saying I think I wouldn't be surprised. And even then, they'll be selective about it because they are usually selective about these things. That being said, when we talk, this is another thing that kind of just, when I see this said a lot, or similar sentiment here, people keep thinking like, okay, they don't see the business value, right? The thing is this, I am sure, and I know this for a fact, I don't even have to, this is not a question right now, Logic. You do not believe that Capcom is a charity, or Sega just likes Xbox, so they put games there, or Kojima is doing a game there and porting games there, or anyone else is doing this just because they're throwing darts in the wind or because they want to throw a bone to Xbox fans. It's because they see a value and there's a trend that this continues to happen. And they are privy to data that we are not. And so when we're not privy to data, but the people that are privy to data continue to make these decisions, I think that we can say and make the assumption that there is business value in doing these things.
I think you can make a choice. What I will say I don't agree with, right, is the argumentative vector that in the absence of omniscience, you can't say a thing, right? So no, sure. I'm not all knowing, right? But that doesn't prevent me from making an assessment and offering an opinion on what my perspective is. And sure. What I'm saying is my perspective today is that the governance framework that seems to be the one PlayStation is using says the thing that you just said. Says that a God of War isn't coming, an Uncharted isn't coming, a God of War isn't coming, right? Those marquee properties that are associated with the brand and give people a big reason to buy PlayStation. So whether and when or not that changes, I don't know, but I don't think it's now. I don't agree with the prediction of 12 to 18 months, and I don't believe in the prediction of this generation.
So if it does happen, sorry, VG. Only one thing. And
guys, I need to wrap it up.
And I know you gotta wrap it up. I know. This is the last thing I gotta say. Come on. If it does happen, even if it's in two years, what is your assessment then? If it happens,
then I will come on the show and admit that I was wrong.
Right, no, but I forget about that. I don't really care about who's wrong or whatever. We're not, unless we make a bet for knees, but we are not doing that. We're just having an intellectual debate. No, what I'm more concerned with is what is your perspective on if it does happen? What does that signal to Logic's mind?
Mm-hmm. That's probably that we probably need way more airtime.
Okay, we can do it. We can do it another time or on Discord. Join the Discord people. VG, you wanted to say something, and then Kay, I know you got to get the super chat.
One sentence.
Please. Go ahead. Yes.
If Helldivers 2 is a wait and see moment, then I'm in a sense skeptic about that, seeing that Lego Horizon Adventures, Until Dawn remake, both perform poorly, yet PlayStation is still going to bring games to Steam. So the goal with Helldivers going to Xbox is to meet their 10% operating marginal goals, where they want to raise their income. Having seen that both PlayStation and Steam may not be sufficient to provide that increase, it doesn't really matter what other IPs or how they try to do it. They're just going to do it as the calendar closes in and the monies can't be met.
So VG, you said income, but it's not income. Their 10% bogey is for profit, correct?
Profit, sorry. The lady said operating marginal income and cumulative operating marginal profit. I think that's what she said. She said she put two different metrics. And so in order for them to reach these goals, it doesn't matter who they send. I think I'm agnostic to whatever property it is. I think, and again, I think you're coming with the presumption that these marquee IPs are what buying the PlayStation console is predicated upon. But we haven't seen the data to support that, seeing as the sales of these marquee IPs are not necessarily groundbreaking and shattering compared to the majority of games that are played on the PlayStation 5 console week in, week out.
Yeah, it's what I would say. It's definitely a marketing assessment. It's definitely a brand equity assessment. And it's definitely a matter of opportunity cost assessment, right? That you have what I would call S-tier properties associated with the brand that can exclusively be played first day and date on that platform. They are today still kept exclusive to that brand until they're ported to PC. And that's why in my mind, in terms of portfolio, right? Because eventually at some day, let's just say in a crazy world, right? Let's say today, PlayStation had to close up shop and had to sell IPs. Those IPs would have dollar-based valuation applied to them.
They would.
Right? And the ones that are considered marquee would be valuated higher than other ones that are hash and trash, B tier, right? Whatever. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but there's also risk assessment and customer behavior. It's now being shown that customer behavior is not necessarily pulling a lot of people to hop over and buy consoles to play, singular, IPs.
So I think that gets into a lengthy conversation of then why do people buy PlayStation, right? Versus some other type of device.
I mean, the answer is simple because they're not like, if you think about it, how many of them are actually buying those IPs compared to how many of them are playing other games? They're buying the PlayStation to play the games they want to play. It's a very simple answer based on the data, I think. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers.
My point is people choose that device to play those games when they could buy a different device to play those games.
I mean,
there has to be a reason associated with why they choose to buy that device over another.
And that
but is it only exclusive?
Likely not the exclusive.
I don't think it's only the exclusive.
I didn't say that it's only. I said it's one part of the formula.
Right? Okay, yeah, but I think it's a part that's associated with the percentages that you can actually cut. For instance, how many people bought God of War while it was available on both the PS4 and PS5? Then that's probably the number of people or the percentage of people that are interested in the console for those IPs. I mean, that's one logical way to just draw.
I think we're trying to dice this into absolutes.
So, gentlemen,
buy a PlayStation 5.
Let me
20 different.
Let me reframe the conversation.
Let me reframe the conversation. Has to get us back on track.
I got to put some time.
VG and Logic. I want to continue this conversation somewhere. Maybe next week. Maybe in the Discord. I'm having a fantastic time.
Let's put us on time.
And I love the disagreement. And I love the debate, and I love the chat. But Kay, get us back on track.
Because we have almost 30 super chats. And by the way, I should say,
almost 400 people watching.
Shout out to the almost 400 people watching. Yes, over all the various.
I don't know how many likes we have. I would like it to be closer to that 400, but
we'll figure that out. But thank you.
No, shame them into liking. We're shaming you into like. If you're watching, hit like on whatever platform you have. Blame me for it.
Okay,
go ahead.
Okay, so let's get back on track real quick. The winners of this week's giveaway. Again, shout out to the great Dr. Dry Rub for all of his patronage and his contributions. We have a bunch of 3 separate PlayStation games on Steam codes. We showed you what they were at the beginning of the show. We also have those 3 who have won. Reach out to me in the DM, make your choice, and you get that code. First come, first serve. 3 of them, right? That is Uncharted, that's Miles Morales, and that is, what's the third one? Now you're gonna make me have to go find the third one. The third one would be God of War. So God of War, Uncharted, and Miles Morales. You pick one, I send you the code. So thanks again to Dr. Dryro for that. So y'all are in the chat, you see it in the DMs, you see it scrolling. Come find me in the DMs and I will give you your code. So thank you for that. Secondly, let's catch up quickly on some of these super chats because there's been a lot. Here we go. And most of it by the great JD Gamer. So settle in. Here we go.
And probably face 23 BKNY.
Yes. So here we go. JD starts off, $5 super chat. He says for all, and he's been passionate. He's usually the logical one in our chats. He's usually the logical super chats. But today he's like, screw that. It's smoke day. So here we go. For all the ones that said only exclusives matter and Xbox is dead, what's the narrative now? What's the narrative now? I'm being a little bit.
Honestly, I know you got to move on, but I don't think
there's a lot.
Changes the trajectory, the sales trajectory for either platform, and I think that's why they're doing it. And honestly, I don't think the third-party approach changed much of the trajectory for Xboxes. But anyway,
how happy can those feet get? Come on now. He continues with a $5 super chat and says, not only is PS third party, not only are they following the footsteps of Xbox like they always have, but they have made fools out of the lot of PlayStation fans. Another $5 super chat. I need to see some people lock themselves in closets trying to figure out this. I need 10K articles, podcasts, and Twitter posts about PlayStation is dead. He continues, because I was trying to be, and this was during part of the conversation where I was trying to be a bit magnanimous. He says, nah, Kay, nah, Everborn, don't give them no air to breathe. They need all this smoke. For years, those pompous pranksters, fake analysts have said that Xbox is dead. Give them all the smoke, all the Xbox smoke they gave us. He continues. I'm telling you, it's a whole thing. I'm sorry. He says, nah, okay. Everborn, don't be polite or nice about it. they all get the feelings.
Polite and nice. We're always
give them all the smoke. VG Fight School in Paris, give them all the smoke, is what he says. And then, of course, BKNY interjects. BKNY with a $2 super chat. He says, oh my God, VG Fight School, Sony doom and gloom. Doom and gloom.
You see, I just like to point out we have these kind of comments from both sides. This is a you know.
Yo, this is crazy.
This podcast.
I love the story of the super chats is just wild. It's just wild, bro. And then, of course,
Ben's having fun. I love it.
I love it. Face BKY, $2 super chat. He continues and says, why MLB The Show took out a Game Pass? That is a good question. I suspect that it's like they had a multi-year deal and it finished at some point,
I think
right?
for the same reason as Yakuza, you introduce it to the platform in a way where it's easily accessible, and now that you have people that like it, you charge them more.
You get used to it.
It worked really well for Yakuza, and they ended up doing $1 million on the first day. Not obviously all on Xbox, but still, they really not revitalized, but really expanded that brand awareness by going into Game Pass. Same thing happened with Liza P, right? There's reasons to do these things.
So TK, do I have time to ask a question?
Oh, you don't, because we're still going to continue. There's a lot, sir.
Yeah, let him get through it. That maybe notes.
Write them notes, sir, because JD needs to be heard. I'm sorry. He continues with a $5 super chat and says, those PlayStation fans, and I will leave those expletives. I suspect they're expletives. I'll leave them. Those PlayStation fans were out there 24 hours before the Helldivers news came out, dancing on non-existent Xbox tombs. They need full cash out smoke style.
Cash out style.
Cash out style smoke. Forgive me. Yes. And then, of course, I added a couple things. Yes. It is what it is. And he then continues with another $5 super chat and says, not today. I'm telling you, bro. There's a thing. Not today. I don't want level-headedness. None of the PlayStation fan expletives have been level-headed with their constant narrative shifts. They all need the smoke.
I hope he also doesn't want level-headedness in the next topic.
Oh boy. Oh God. Yes. And we're gonna risk ourselves cutting the next topic short in favor of this topic because we took too long, and now people are gonna be like, oh, they didn't even care about the layoffs. No, that's not what's happening right now. Anyway. And then Hollywood Rules with a $5 super chat. He says, you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself go full third party. Damn. Wow. Same energy they gave Xbox the whole damn slate. There you go. All right. And then BK again with a $20 super chat. He says, because it shows me that Sony focus will be less focused on PlayStation console itself. I guess that's why this is a big deal, since they're now going, they're leveraging their IPs elsewhere. It looks like they will no longer be as focused on the console itself as they used to be, and is that the reason why people should be worried?
I don't know if I'd say that. This is more about expansion and losing focus on the console, if that makes sense.
So I think his comment though was Paris asked him the question back to his older super chat, and and then he was saying, if I see games going to Xbox day and date, right?
Okay, true. Understood. Spoony Love.
I don't see
with 500 yen. I think it's yen. And he says Xbox and PlayStation are both third party. Sony just has better messaging. As much talking as they do, messaging remains Microsoft's Achilles heel.
I honestly think with this.
That is such a true statement. Oh my God. This is such, Spoony, you have the truest statement so far. They're doing the same thing. One just knows how to tell you better. Some just knows how to spin the yarn a bit better than the other does. I think I agree so wholeheartedly with that. JD is not done. He, with a $2 super chat, he says, Game Logic is down for the one box to rule them all. Is that true, Game Logic? Are you down for the one box to rule them all?
That is absolutely not true. Hard pass.
That is absolutely okay. And then Risk It for the Biscuit is here with $3 dues, and he says Xbox is dead again. And you're talking about ARM? Question mark. I'm gonna come for you there, Risk It. You calm down. You calm down. Yeah, he's just coming for me. He's doing his best to be as
that's like an inside joke for you. Okay.
He's just trying to be as ridiculous as
that's
possible.
risk it whispering sweet nothings in your ear. I understand. Let's continue.
Terrible.
We got a lot of these.
We'll continue. Yes, we do. Hollywood Rules, $5 super chat. He says Sony has been remastering the same crowd. Why wouldn't they send over the shoulder third person game to place the lack of them Horizon next? Yeah, that is a good question, right? I would think that their next thing, at least in my opinion, like to the point you guys were making, I would think the Horizon will probably be the next, because that seems to be their ambassador wherever they tend to put stuff, right? Whenever they put something new, it tends to be Horizon. I'm surprised the Horizon, like the Lego Horizon, didn't go. Probably Horizon would have gone. I think
Lego Horizon didn't go because it didn't do well, and if
because it probably bombed,
they probably would have gone. Done it later. Also, just one thing, Logic, don't answer this. I'm just saying this. I do think that all of these things are tests, right? They will see how this goes, and then they'll dip their toe a little further. That is why I won't rule out a single player game, but they'll do one that matters less than the mainstays, and then if it does well, then they'll expand, and they'll do it in a way that will have the least impact to their platform. But go ahead.
JD, another $5 super chat. He says the timeline for first-party single-player PlayStation games going to Xbox is purely dependent on how Helldivers does. If it's a super successful, then it's less than 4 years. Do we disagree? I think you want to reply.
I think Helldivers is going to be about what multiplayer games do over there, and that will tell. Right. If Helldivers does well, then if Fair Games doesn't get canceled, then maybe Fair Games is a day one game. Who knows, right? Yeah. A single player game, I think, will be a different test, but I do think it is a test that they will do.
So what do you think, Logic? I don't. Yeah. My feeling is we shouldn't equate, right, the success or failure of Helldivers to what PlayStation will do with some other property that's differentiated, right? If there's a delta in the property, then it plays different on the addressable market, and we may not want to look at those things as equivalents.
And also, I do think, right, that like again, people can talk about like feelings and apply like personifications to a soulless corporation. All corporations are soulless. I'm not saying that specifically about Sony or Microsoft or whatever, but if you see how much money is being made by putting games in more places, and you are also seeing that the relative number of console market share is only changed by single digits, right? You have single digit change in market share, but you have double digit change in revenue from putting games in multiple places. Sony executives will see that, and they will at least
10 more
test the waters. I think
that
is
more,
a
please.
Okay.
Let me finish 10 more, and then we'll get to the final topic. 10 more, please. Okay. Risky for the biscuit with $8 redos. We don't know what these things are, but they're not really American dollars, so it is what it is. Thank you, Risky, by the way. He says, how many more examples do publishers need before they realize that a $400 million plus budget does not guarantee success, and in fact, it constrains it? That is a good question. That's a good question. And that is a righteous criticism to say and righteous smoke to deliver. And then he delivers some truly god-awful, ridiculous talking points after that. And he comes with his $4 reduce and says, Riskit was right about mismanagement that day. We don't know what the hell he was talking about. And clearly he must be smoking some of his dollar reduce, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you, Riskit. We're moving quickly along with JD Gamer with a $5 super chat. And he says, logic is logic. Because it can be applied universally, it's never based on how I feel or what I think. It's based on a universal application of facts. Okay, I guess he's trying to level set so that people, for those who believe the sky is purple. I understand.
Yeah, I don't think that was towards game logic. I think
I don't think so. Like, no. He's taking the capital L logic. Well, no, the lowercase logic. Anyway, Brap with a $2 super chat. He says, "Great conversation panel."
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brap. Appreciate you being here. Hollywood Rules with a $5 super chat. He says, "Those third-person games sitting on the shelves making no money, dust them off. Sell them in a place that has depth." The money guys are Dearth. My bad. The money guys are seeing Xbox eat on PlayStation. That part. What do you think of that? By the way, real quick, logic. I feel like a lot of this has that inclination in it, right? They've watched their own user base, like basically feed Xbox a time or two with IPs. Why not do the same to their guys? What do you think of that?
I don't entirely understand the way you guys are articulated. Are you saying that PlayStation is saying that people are buying Xbox games on PlayStation, so why don't they do the same on Xbox?
Yes.
I A, don't know. I would say, why don't they take their back catalog and port that to PC?
Which is basically what the question is literally what Hollywood.
When I say back catalog, I'm not talking about like games that have come out this generation that they've already ported. I'm
talking about many generations before.
Like PlayStation 3 games.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think, wouldn't that take more work? Like, just because of the way those things
might be
were
more
designed,
financially,
and it may not be. The juice may not be worth the squeeze.
But the squeeze, that's right. Yes.
No, only because those games. Sorry, go ahead.
My point is, he's asking me, why doesn't PlayStation do the same thing in reverse? And what I'm saying is, I don't know. PlayStation has lots of options that they can go about. You know, why they don't do the same thing that Xbox does, I don't know. They're again, I'm going to contend they're not doing the same thing today. Right, because they're not doing the exact same strategy that Xbox is. Maybe that is a matter of they're slow footing it and doing it more gradually and more methodically. By the way, I also equate more methodically to more deliberate, like more conscious, having a longer term roadmap, which again makes a delta between what Xbox is doing. But who knows?
Yeah, I do agree they're better at this.
BV, but again, real quick, I gotta finish 5 more. BV, follow a $2 super chat. He asks a great question and puts a great statement out there. He says, "Join the Discord and smash the like button, gang." If we have at over 380 some odd people in this chat on the various platforms, please continue to support us. Hit the like button if you haven't done so. We appreciate y'all. Great conversation today by all these wonderful humans on this panel. Thank you for being here. Real quick, let's just finish up these super chats and we'll get back to it. Magic XP with a $5 super chat. He says logic is the focus, especially when the great game logic is with us. Ooh, he's spitting. He says, but I do, but we do not believe Sony / PlayStation ever acted with emotion towards Xbox in this strategy. Do we? I don't think so.
Because when you're focusing on prioritizing your brand, that is a business move. It's a business assessment. Yes. They're not doing it.
It's not an emotional response,
right? And if they do something that may have a slight impact on the brand, it's a risk reward analysis, right? Cost benefit analysis. Whatever you say. Well, hey, this will affect the brand by we think this amount, but we'll gain this much from it, and so they'll do it. They don't care what we think on the timeline.
So I'd say, by the way, yes. I would say there are small wedges of exception to that, right? Right. We know from, if you listen to Paul Thurrott and formerly I can't remember her first name now. Mary Jo Foley, right? We know that part of the reason behind Surface was because they got tired of getting their lunch eaten by Mindshare with Apple with the MacBook Pro, right? And I was actually thinking a lot about this, Everboard, because of our common background with Windows Phone, and remember the whole pissing contest between Google and Microsoft, where Google would frequently break things in integration just out of
on purpose.
You can say it's sabotage. They sabotage.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely they did.
They'll put YouTube on a toaster, but wouldn't let it go on the Windows Phone.
But before they would put on a Windows Phone, yes.
All right, sorry.
And then Microsoft themselves, they made it, and then they kept breaking. It was hilarious. Anyway, those of us who remember the Windows Phone days,
we have hilarious how Google and Microsoft treat security vulnerabilities, how they try to shame each other for it. Anyway, we can talk about
BKNY. $2 super chat. He says, battle of intellect. No, yes. Nice men. Men nice.
No, yes, men. No, yes, men.
No, yes, men. Yes. And by the way, BK, you are welcome on this show. I would love to have you in the Discord. Always with the great critique, and always with the biting narratives, and always pushing people. It's great that you're always pushing the envelope and talking and basically not allowing yes men to stand. So please continue doing what you do. And if you ever feel like it, join our Discord. Maybe join us on the show. You're always welcome. 2 more to go. JD Gamer, the great JD Gamer, with a $5 super chat. He says, never talk to a market analyst about future sales. Go and ask a salesman, and he will inevitably predict what will sell far more accurately. Yes, because clearly salesmen know that can read the tea leaves better than market analysts can. I don't know if I agree with that. Good salesman, sure. Sure. Good car salesman. We'll say that. Plague Intellect with a $5.
Plague
I think
Plague Injected.
Plague Injected. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Plague Injected. Thank you. With a $5 Canadian super chat, Australian super chat. He says, "We don't hate gaming journalists enough. We think we do, but we don't." Damn. Okay.
There are gaming journalists that actually do their job, even when you
I think so.
don't like whatever. What I dislike is the people that don't even do the research, and they just come up there and pass off opinion as fact. They're not doing any investigative journalism. They're not trying to understand things and explain to people. They're not. No. Hold on. Let me talk about this.
Whoa. Before we get back to the slander, discord.gg/The Gaming Circle Podcast. Again, discord.gg/The Gaming Circle Podcast, where you can go join us. This is what you get there on a 24-hour, almost 24-hour basis, all day, every day, from many, many parts of the community. Join us. We appreciate you. Everborn, I'm sorry. Go.
I had a moment to think, because I might have lost. I was about to lose my cool. I think
you needed to breathe.
Suffice to say, there's a lot of content creators masquerading as journalists, and journalists masquerading as content creators, right? Content create, whatever. The point is, right? If I am looking at a journalist, I want to know someone I want to know that someone did the work, talked to the people, got the background information, took their feelings out of it, and reported something. And it's a lot of people that say, it's not my job to explain this to you, it's the company's job. Then what the are you here for? I didn't say it. The point is, all right. I would appreciate if people actually did their jobs. I'd appreciate when you're interviewing a CEO that you actually are not so starstruck that you're interviewing a CEO that you actually ask a question. I would appreciate that when you're going and getting background information, you're not just parroting talking points that you heard from Reddit or some YouTube video.
So Everborn Saga,
if you're going to call yourself a journalist, do the job.
Do the journalist's job. Absolutely. Sir,
you shouldn't feel attacked, Paris, because you're not a journalist, as you said.
As he said, that's right. Last topic, and I'm gonna drop this, and I'm gonna be right back, and I'm gonna let you run with it real quick, okay? Watchers of this show, keen watchers of this show, know that we've been having this back and forth conversation for some time. Right. Now we can talk about the what happened as far as Microsoft laying folks off and what that means for their families and how horrible that is and all of that. And all that is fair game and game logic. I'm happy you're here, VG. I'm happy you're here as well. I wish actually Paris was here to round out this conversation as well, but I'm sure we'll get this done. I'm just here to be messy real quick and say, Mr. Everborn Saga, we had this conversation some time back. I said the eventual day would come where they would err on the side of AI and in so doing hack up a bunch of people's jobs. I remember at that time you were fighting me saying, it'll never be that good. AI will never be enough of a good footstool to where they'll be able to leverage them instead of people fully to where people would feel it in a real way. I am here right now. I am here right now.
People that I said AI was not going to lead to the loss of jobs.
I am here right now to ask you to join the front of the congregation, sir, and explain to the people what Microsoft has just done and what this means for us moving forward in gaming, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that
I have set him up. He can knock it down. Go, sir.
I think that's a gross misinterpretation of what I said, because I was very clear that AI would take jobs. And I was also very clear, and people didn't like it when I said it, that we need to find a way to bring down costs, right? And that is not me praising what just happened, but let us not pretend that I was over here talking about nobody's going to lose jobs from AI. What I talked about is AI not being able to create artistic content and not being able to run the show on its own. That's what I talked about, and we are not there yet. We're in an uncanny valley place where it is going to take a mile to move an inch in terms of output that these things can do that on their own. And what I said at the time is just because AI may be able to make a game does not mean it will be good. And it does not mean that people will want to play it. Anyway, instead of trying to, you failed to take my knees, but it's okay because I took my own knees at the beginning of the show. It didn't work.
This is not a knees conversation.
No, but it was you trying to say you were right about something.
Hit the like button, use AI to do it. Okay, thank you, Rodimus.
Now let us give us
the preamble of what happened here. Go ahead.
To the matter at hand. Preamble. If we want to do preamble, I can go back to a sit down that the one Satya Nadella, aka the man who killed Windows Phone.
Oh boy.
He was sitting down with Mark the Robot Zuckerberg talking about how AI, like 30% of their code is being written by AI at Microsoft. And Mark Zuckerberg laughs and says, it could be up to 50 at Facebook pretty soon.
Oh boy. Right.
And then before we got the heads up around slow-mo, I may have lost my knees years ago, but I took yours the other day when Helldivers came out. But we can talk about that another day because we already passed that subject. Now, but then before this rumor came out that there was going to be more job cuts at Microsoft, we see a memo goes out to all employees at Microsoft that AI is no longer optional. It is required for every role somehow the janitors at Microsoft are using AI, right? And then we hear 4% workforce reduction, right? Yeah. And this is it's 9,000 jobs. We don't know how many were at Microsoft, were at Xbox, but 9,000 across the whole company, right? Mm-hmm. But it was a bloodbath in the Xbox division, right? And all of this, if I were to get, and this is in the face of them investing $80 billion into AI data centers and other things. This is in the midst of them being projected within the next 2 years to move from 3.7 to a $5 trillion market valuation.
So, right? Everborn, real quick, let's take stock of exactly what happened here. Like, this is some of the fallout that we've seen, and I'll let you continue. This is 9,000 employees that were let go across Microsoft's divisions, including a number of employees on the gaming side, right? This is cuts that are reportedly to help fund $80 billion into AI investment. Perfect Dark was canceled, and the initiative has been shut down. Everwild has been shut down from Rare, and potentially job cuts taking place there as well. Cuts have taken place in Raven and Sledgehammer. Turn 10 has been cut 50% of its staff, according to now let go employees, and the entire Forza Motorsport team as Turn 10 will now focus solely on Forza Horizon and Forza Tech Engine. The ZeniMax online team has been impacted with an unannounced MMO project, Blackbird, that has been canceled, which, by the way, some reports had Phil Spencer constantly playing it until the day it was canceled. And then the last one, at least one first-party publishing deal has been canceled from the unannounced studio, the John Romero studio, which also led to their studio closing. Right. Because of the removes. But please continue. That's the fallout from the Xbox situation.
Sure. No, well, that's the thing, though, right? And again, this speaks to me personally because I have actual friends. I'm not talking about like people online, actual friends that were affected by this thing.
Absolutely. Right?
So I do have emotions about this, but I want to take a little bit of emotion out of it, because I think we've gotten enough emotion. Maybe we didn't get enough emotion, but there's emotion everywhere, and a lot of people are speaking that way. And it's, but I want to see if we can add something unique to this conversation. And so there's the AI piece of it, and I think, like it says, they did this to fund the $80 billion investment in AI. I don't know if it's that like one-to-one. I think it's more, hey, we are telling our customers that Copilot can save you this amount. Let's dog food it, and let's show investors and our customer, like business customers, like B2B customers, that hey, look, we cut 4% of our workforce, and we have AI doing those roles now. Think about how much you can cut. Think about how much you can save.
The reason why they threaded that needle is because Reuters did the same thing. See, Microsoft cuts 4% of his amidst hefty AI bid, right? The Reuters themselves kind of threaded that needle of, well, you're cutting and you're betting high on AI, so that's the narrative that's prevailing, and people are running with it.
It's 1,000% AI related, but I think it's just more nefarious than oh, we spent 80 billion, so we have to make it back. I think that's too simple a way to explain all this, right? And again, we're gonna talk about Phil Spencer's tone deaf email about how we got the most gamers ever. You're fired, right?
Written via AI, I suspect.
Right? And so, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if it was AI that made the decisions on who to cut. But because
can I just interject one thing? I do think, like, as we're going through this conversation, right, that us and people, and like from a discourse perspective, that there are separate topics between how much investment capital the go-to-market effort in AI, right, as a value stream is consuming, right, within Microsoft, and where that money may or may not be pulled from other divisions, versus AI implementation in-house supplanting people's jobs.
Yes. Yeah, that's an important distinction.
Yeah.
So and again, I do have all those feelings about how terrible this is and how poorly it was managed, and this is the result of failures for delivery within Xbox. I feel all those feels, but you've heard those feelings. The question is, and shout out to VG, he had to go. I appreciate him coming on.
Real quick, shout out to VG, shout out to the great Paris Lily. We're in and out, crazy conversations. Thank you guys so much for being
here. Subscribe to their channels. And again, VG is like a teacher in real life, so that's the way he kind of tries to explain things. He has his perspective.
He will take you to school. Yes, he will.
Anyway, but the point that I was coming back to is, if this is a top-down thing, meaning Satya and Amy say we're cutting 4% of the workforce. Hey, LinkedIn, you got to cut this much. GitHub, you got to cut that much. Windows division, Surface division, you got to cut that much. Gaming division, you got to cut this much. What cuts do you make? So Logic, I would ask you that. Not this is on you, just because I know you have a sort of a managerial kind of mindset.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the chat. Everborn, can you repeat your question?
No. I was saying, like, if this is a top-down thing, because they didn't cut 9,000 people from the Xbox division, it was 9,000 people company-wide. That tells me this came from top-down. So whether Phil or Booty or Sarah, and they deserve their own smoke, I'm not saying they don't, but if those three are told, you got to cut this percentage of the force, who do you cut? What do you cut? If it's a top-down thing.
Yeah. So yeah, and same thing. I've been trying to approach the thing by taking the emotion out of it. I have friends who were impacted. And I do, like you said, like friends, like not like online acquaintances, who were impacted by the last year plus worth of Microsoft layoffs, including a lot of former coworkers. I would say just like, and part of my struggle in dealing with this is because I've been in those conversations, right? I haven't handed down the mandate that people have to be laid off, but I have been like, once once it hits like a certain tier in the organization, I've been part of the, hey, we were told everybody needs to cut 3%, right? And I've been part of like the 5-6 hour triage meetings, right, to decide, where are we, what's our strategy, what are our critical value streams, which business units are not profitable, where do we have talent that is aging out, and can be supplanted by like other talent, who's reteachable, right, in terms of skills. So it's I mean, for times even before that, right, I carry the weight with me of decisions I've had to be involved in that I know impact people's lives, right? Not just layoffs, but other things I've had to participate in. So I mean, so I guess I've kind of gone through some of the examples, right, of like your question, to answer your question of who do you cut, right? Maybe if a person says, if I've constantly had a conversation with an engineer who constantly says back to me, this is what I do and I don't do other stuff, right? That might be a person that needs to go, in comparison to a person who is constantly a fire jumper and doing all sorts of things, right? Maybe I retain my more flexible, fungible talent, right, than my kind of locked in talent. Maybe I have engineers who are in a value stream that isn't tightly coupled to where I think I'm skating to in the future. In terms of this game business, right? Like, I mean, it's a timely example, TK, as you bring up the turn 10 thing. I mean, I think we talked about this in the Discord, or maybe when I was on last time, right?
We have.
How does that decision get made? Maybe that decision gets made because, maybe I've had a brain drain at turn 10, or maybe I say like that simulator type game isn't playing as well with my audience as Forza Horizon does, which is more inviting to casuals. Here's a crazy thing to couple it with the conversation that we had before about the whole PlayStation strategy, right? If I'm looking at the Forza Motorsport series and I say my strategy is now a multi-platform one, and I consider how content and genres and IP play across multiple platforms, maybe I say I'm not putting Forza Motorsport on play, and I'm just making this as a theoretical. I'm not saying I think this way. Maybe I'm not focused on putting Forza Motorsport on PlayStation and going head to head with Gran Turismo. Maybe my strategic focus is on what do I need to really bolster my Forza Horizon series, because that's going to play better when I deploy this thing, both on my own platform, right, within Game Pass, because we have the whole thing of like 20 million people, right, played Forza Horizon, but it also plays well on other platforms. So, I mean, I think those are some of the kind of criteria that go into some of that decision making.
So, go ahead.
Just to round off like an overall assessment, because I've been really trying to not deal with this topic. But what I will say is one thing I did write up, which I hope and pray is my last thing that I write up, because I'm really trying to retire out of this lane. I personally like how did Microsoft or Xbox get here? I kind of pinned that to 4 things, right? Because I think there was an effort by some of the journalists, people who call themselves journalists, as you mentioned, to try and paint this as the entire industry's under adversity, so this is a natural outcome. I don't agree with that perspective. I think part of the way things got the way they are is you had, as you mentioned, Everborn, you had $80 billion in acquisitions in a relatively short time frame, right, between 2020 and 2025, and the scaling up. And we all know that when you make acquisitions, on the backside of that, you're going to lay people off, right, for redundancies and other things. So that's one. In conjunction with, you also, and Microsoft didn't do this, everybody did it, but, well, not everybody, but lots of big tech did. Plus, you overhired during the pandemic, right? So there's a natural slough off. So that's 2 dynamics that are converging. Then you have a major shift in corporate strategy, swinging investment in the direction of AI, right? So now you have 3 huge dynamic factors converging at one point. And then
you
your
add
4th
interest rates to this?
Sure. Yeah. You could, I mean, any type of economic adversity.
Yeah.
And then my last thing, which I think a lot of market analysts or assessors like skate by, is you also have Carolina Dybeck-Hape being added to the C-suite in fall of 2024. And Dybeck-Hape's claim to fame is she was the CFO at GE and is credited with the big turnaround at GE, who was headed south in a not very good direction. So now you have the COO and the CFO, who are both big money people, bean counters, come from a heavy financial background, right? And you have that dynamic in the boardroom in terms of who's demanding fiscal responsibility. And hey, if you want to invest big in AI, that's fine, but we can't do that while these other things are going on, right? So I think, how we got here is the combination of those four factors overlapping each other in a perfect storm that results in the things that you have now.
Yep, I agree.
This is another question, right? And I don't know that this has been asked. I know people wrote articles about it, but I haven't heard it asked in this way, except for in the Discord. Would the gaming division at Xbox be better off on its own, as in not connected to Microsoft, as it stands now? I understand that they needed Microsoft to fall back on in the past before they had all the IP that they had. But if you look
what you're
at
saying
XGS, Bethesda, and ABK,
if they
no
were a separate
expectation
company
of this happening.
That's what you're saying. They're a separate company being run by thought experiment, right? Separate company being run as a game company. ABK and Xbox Game Studios as one company. Is that what you're saying?
One company. Would that be better at this stage? Them not being tied
obviously because Microsoft has their influence on them, and you're thinking that without their influence, it might have a different outcome. Is that the thinking?
It's just a question. I don't even know if that's the thinking, and I don't know if it makes sense. As a matter of fact, I don't think it makes any sense at this stage, and I don't think there's any likelihood of that happening. I know people again are losing their minds because this current thing happened, but this is another that has been my pushback in the Discord. We can't turn off basic.
We can't turn off all the context
reasoning
that gets us to where we're
just
going.
because they did a terrible thing right now. I mean, you can if you want to. I'm just not going to do that. But honestly, there's a thought experiment.
Yeah.
Would the gaming division at Microsoft be better as its own entity? Because there are other things happening in the company that are negatively affecting.
Sure. I do agree. So I agree that in certain instances, with certain situations, they would be better if they were isolated from that conversation, if they were a separate entity from the mothership. But that also would come with negatives, right? That would also come with a lot of negatives, which it comes with a lot of negatives that we were giving them smoke for some time now, right? When they didn't get the budgets they needed in order to compete, in order to money hat righteously like they should, or put financial budgets together in a more competitive way, people gave them smoke for it because you're behind this $1 trillion company and you're not doing so. Back then, they weren't doing that because they weren't being given the budget they deserve, seemingly. In this scenario, they wouldn't have that budget because they'd have to make it up on their own, right?
But
you'd have no proper Microsoft.
We're in a different time now, and I see this in the chat. I see what you're saying, Brap. I see what you're saying, Aaron. I am not talking about would they have survived without the backing of Xbox. I'm saying today, the gaming division.
So like right now, there are a certain level. Now Microsoft spins them off as a separate entity. Can they?
And I don't think this will happen. It's only a.
We just thought experimenting. Yeah, I actually think that would be like today. From now on, that would probably be cool. Up until now, probably not. But now that they have all their guns with them, they have ABK, they're ready for service games. They're ready for mobile. They have their guns ready. And if they were to now separate from Microsoft, that would then inoculate them from some of the corporatist AI stuff that's happening. So it could potentially be beneficial.
Logic.
Moving on. What do you think, Logic?
So before we move on, I really try to not pay attention to chat when I'm here. I do want to address one thing because Erodimus is in the chat going on and on and on and on. I think it's Erodimus.
Erodimus likes to be in our Discord as well. He loves the Discord. Let's go.
So we shouldn't equate deltas in causality with the instance of an occurrence of a thing. Okay. So what I said was that I don't agree that this is all going on in the industry and the causalities are all the same. What I said was that I listed off a number of reasons of how I think Microsoft got to be here. All 4 of those reasons are choices that they made. They are not matters of economic environment. They are not things that were done to them. That does not make them victims. So my frustration a little bit is with the hand wavy whataboutisms of, well, everybody's having a bad time, right? No, that's not where we are today. They just laid off 9,000 people, some of which, as Everborn and I mentioned here, are friends of ours. Some of the reasons why they had to make them up, I readily agree, and this is why I agreed with what Everborn said about like economics and interest rates. Some of that causality is common to all of those businesses, but all of those businesses also made choices. None of those businesses, none, should be given an excuse, despite whatever your fandom is. None of those businesses should be given an excuse for the rabid overhiring during the pandemic and convincing themselves that businesses and growth were going to remain the same. And the reason why I'm hot is I'm hot about the excusism. These businesses made choices, and that is part of the reason why they are. We're not here on a tech podcast. I would love to be on a tech podcast. We're not here on a tech podcast talking about Google and Intel. I can rattle off all the dorked up things that Intel has done over the last few years, right? But that's not the conversational topic today. The conversational topic is the layoffs that just happened at Microsoft. So if we're trying to make excuses for them, please, I would offer maybe that's not the move to do. They made choices. They made choices with awareness of where things were. They made decisions on where they were skating the business. We should not be giving them a pass because of that. Fine to say everybody's having adversity and everybody's having a tough time and everybody's got to deal with these difficult decisions to make, but it shouldn't be giving them an out for the choices that they made.
So real quick, JD Gamer, $5 super chat. He says, we have so-called journos out here with 100K subs delivering fake news, inaccurate news, or flat out lies on a daily. Never get news from YouTubers. Wow. You are out there, sir. Okay.
I mean,
I need to wonder who's in your subscription.
My strategy has always been trust but verify, right?
Sure.
Like and what that means is, because this is what I see happen a lot. People see information they agree with and don't question it because they agree with. But if it's news they don't like, that's when they look for the follow-up sources, right? And I think you have to treat information that you agree with the same level of skepticism.
That's right.
With the information you disagree with. And I don't see that happening a lot.
Yep. Because people don't recognize that people blow smoke up your butt by giving you information you want to hear. And you don't. Right. That should bring up your skepticism flag when you keep getting information that you want to hear. That's usually a little bit of a false flag itself.
This is why I'm always like, everybody gets in their feelings for different reasons. This is why I get in my feelings when people just repeat things like, any number of things. Xbox gamers don't buy games. It's not true when only 15% of their revenue, the last we checked, comes from Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
It's not true. If it were true, then they wouldn't be getting all these games that don't come to Game Pass on the platform. People are not running charities. Anyway, the point is, it's not about Xbox. It's about challenge information, even if you agree with it, and find follow-up sources. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry for the thing.
I will agree with
Plague Injected. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, I do agree with what you said, Everborn. I absolutely read the tea leaves behind this as, again, because I've been in these conversations to how to make these choices, that this was hey, everybody's going to take a 3% cut, right? So we're not going to tell you what to cut, which I also think I've mentioned to you before. I also think is a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. And again, this is my speculation about all the moves that Xbox is saying. I think Amy Hood has said, right, and probably Dieback Cape in conjunction with her now, has said, these are the things that have to happen. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, right? That's up to you guys. That's not my problem. I'm not going to tell you if you need to close a studio or lay people off, but you guys need to do this. You guys need to hit these metrics, right? And that's yielded, right, some of what's going on. But more specifically to the layoff, I totally agree with you that there's a cut that's going to happen because we need to make up this amount of investment capital that we want to point towards AI, and every division. I mean, obviously Xbox is in the news because of the news that we watch, but absolutely other divisions, right? At the Azure division, Office division, all those groups, were impacted as things were being, and probably had projects canceled and things like that too.
Plague Injected with a five I keep saying Canadian, Australian dollars says, which way, gamer? Having your games made by AI or made by guys who are on public record saying games were a mistake? Question mark. I need some context.
You got to explain some context.
You got to give us.
You don't have to super chat, but just
just give us some.
I can't respond to it because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Erodimus, $5 super chat, and Erodimus, he's poking the bear here. Let's go. Anonymous. But if I was he says market analysts predicts that AI will replace 70% of the workforce in the next 10 years. We need to discuss the ways to get off the corporate plantation. Damn,
I believe that's a gross over prediction.
You think so?
Not saying it's going to take away some jobs. I don't think it's taking away 70% of jobs in that time period.
One thing, the thing that he says that I do want to have a conversation about, which I think is valid, is while I agree with you that it won't take that, I do agree
in that period of time.
They will try, because even now the wheels of the stool aren't exactly stable, but they're trying because they see there's an opportunity, there's a potential to optimize and financially be advantageous. So even if it's not perfect now, we'll work on it. Let's just do it now, right? And because of that, even though they won't make it, because I agree with you that they won't make it, but they will try because there's a will. And that's the thing that worries.
It feels like they're trying to make AI the thing that phones became,
even if
to
it's
where
not
it's a
necessarily
thing that you begin to feel like you can't live without. Like,
yes,
you can't live without a mobile phone these days, right?
Yes.
They're trying to do that with AI, but I don't see the practical application in the consumer space. They're trying to sell it to businesses as a way to
optimize their environment, go to the next level.
Workforce reduction, we can say it. Workforce reduction is how they're trying to sell it, right? But what it will be able to do and what they're selling it as are two different things.
Yeah, true. The great Hargichani, what's going on, good sir? He's been a member for 17 months. He says, to my knowledge, this is a smaller cut than 2 years ago. From the last 2 years, which was 1,900 or so each. This time, this was around 1,000. Why is that so much worse? I think when all told, it'll be about 2,000, if I'm not mistaken, when it's all said and done.
I don't know that we have a number yet for 1,000 or 2,000. It's just the rumor was 2,000 were from Xbox, but I haven't heard that confirmed by anybody.
Yeah. Brat with a $5 super chat. I'm sorry, I'll let you get in.
All I care about is the 3 or 4 people that I know that it affects. Not saying I don't care about the others. But
no, but absolutely. When it hits close to home and it sucks, absolutely. $5 super chat from Brap. He says Everborn is spot on with Microsoft dog feeding AI. Microsoft has pitched efficiency and cost savings of AI to my company. They've done the same to mine. We're actually implementing a lot of their recommendations. We've even had a Microsoft rep host workshops. I will tell you that some companies are getting.
I didn't make that idea up. I got it from work.
Yes,
when they came
some companies are getting investments in order to, they're not just recommending you move in this direction. They are, financially making it advantageous for you to move in that direction. So it's all happening. It really is. So let's move this thing on. Logic. I know you had something really you wanted to chime in.
Just to Hargeet's thing. And this is to parrot what Slomo's saying. The impact for the gaming division has been harder this time. Yeah, see, this time it is. Well, I would like to say it's more high profile this time because with the layoffs before, you didn't see a high profile game like Perfect Dark and Everwild get canceled, right? Yeah. You didn't hear about Turn 10 basically becoming a now support.
Can we talk about Perfect Dark for a quick moment? Just let's put a pin for a moment and just talk about Perfect Dark.
Can I just make one comment before we go ahead? Just because it's pertinent to that. So I think the difference to Hargate's question, I feel like the difference in optics and why people are seeing it differently is because those other layoffs, right, wrong, or indifferent, however you quantify it, right, felt like they were closer to the outlet side of the acquisition and post-pandemic rifts.
But redundancies,
right? So there was,
basically.
Yeah, so there were kind of explanations that people connoted, right, with those layoffs. I think what is kind of a system shock in the current dialogue is that now there's been a longer time lag and people are like, wait, this is still happening. But also the causality that was given voice, right, by Phil's own message, which is that the reason we're doing this is because we're the corporation, not just Xbox, is making strategic shifts and has different strategic priorities, right? Which again, firmly puts it in the basket of these are choices that were made, right? This wasn't something that was done to you.
So
and that's again, that's just an optics. That's not saying that that's right or wrong. That's just the way I think people are viewing it.
I think another part that made it worse for me anyway was when he said we've made hard decisions like this before and have seen success from it, right? And so it's basic. They're literally telling you, hey, we cut some jobs so we could increase margins, and now we got to cut yours. Doesn't matter if you did right. Doesn't matter if you did well. Doesn't matter if you were here for 15 years. Line must go up.
Yep.
And it's just like,
and if you see a lot of the people on the timeline, they're all saying we got let go as part of a non-performance related restructure.
Right. And so there's one thing. There's one thing to say, listen, you under-delivered. There's less money coming in, so we got to make these decisions, right?
Yep.
Still sucks, and you can still say there's accountability for why you got there. But when you say we have more players than ever before, and we're all doing great, but we're still letting you go, I'm sorry, that is gonna rub people the wrong way, especially the people that were actually affected by it.
I want to stop for a moment. Let's crystallize the existing, and before we get out of here, I want to also talk about the future state.
Oh yeah, I got a hard stop at 2 for that birthday party.
There you go. Yeah, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. So just for a moment about the existing, right? Perfect Dark, right, and a few others, but let's just use Perfect Dark as an example, right? We saw it get announced, we saw it get shown off, we saw people play it. We have the voice actor talking about, get out there, let's put our voices out and hopefully we can save it, right? She wants it to live, right? Was there deceptive behavior happening here somewhere, or was this on track and it was removed? Because it seems like it's now being framed as, because I've seen the stupid responses on the timeline. Oh yeah, that was generic anyway. No, it wasn't. A year or whatever ago when you saw it, you didn't think it was generic. I did not hear that once, not once. But now it was generic and it wasn't good anyway. But when it first released, everyone unanimously was excited. I paid attention. There was not any deterrence on the timeline about how it was bad, right? There were people who actually played it behind closed doors.
I know.
Also had nothing but great
people,
things to say.
I know people that worked there that played it. It wasn't fake,
and it wasn't fake, right? So my question becomes, what is the outcome here? Is this a product that was on its way, that was working well, that's just a victim of the situation? Or was there some behavior that happened here that we are not aware of that caused this to be a victim of the situation that we're just not clear on? Because it seems like such a waste if it was all on track and now is,
So Logic, can I jump in before you?
Go ahead.
I just had a quick question. Can I ask my question and then you can?
Yeah. Ask the
question, I would enter into consideration that it's possible that both things are true. Right. That the vertical slice was good. Right. Was doing well. Like as far as the demo was not a fake. Right. Or at least was no more of a fake than any other demo or trailer is for any other showcase or show. Right. But it could also be true that the project still wasn't on schedule, that the project had a cost horizon that made people averse, that there were, because remember, at the end of the day, even though we like to say that these things are wrapped around like metrics and data, they all become human decisions, right? So it could have been a matter, and I've seen this, It could have been a matter of like somebody in the managerial chain wasn't meshing as well, right, with other people. The past history of the problems that were rumored to be part of the dynamic at the initiative, we know that they were being helped out by
Crystal Dynamic,
right. So that could have had a cost associated with it, right? So it is possible that both of these things were true.
So everyone, what is your thoughts on it? I contend that all that added cost, all that included cost to get this product off the ground would seemingly make it even harder for you to just cut bait and cancel it. What's your assessment?
Okay, I got a lot of thoughts on Perfect Dark. I'm glad you brought it up. The first thing I would like to point out is that the trailer is still on the Xbox YouTube channel.
Right now.
My God.
Right now, so go watch it.
Yes, and the second thing is, if you thought people wouldn't let go of Scalebound, you will never hear the end of this.
You'll never. Right? This is the noose around their neck forever. Oh my God, forever.
And I would just like to throw this into the category of Phil needs to shut what they call the F up.
The front door. The front door. Yes.
Because I don't care if you're lying on purpose. I don't care if control is being taken out of your hands. If every time you speak and you tell me things and you show me trailers and you say it's looking good and all of that stuff happens and then it doesn't pan out, your interviews are worthless to the public. I've been saying this for a little while now, and I'm sorry, it's not about he's a liar. It's not about he's a bad guy. It's not about any of that. It is, I cannot take anything you say to the bank.
Yeah, worse than they're not helping, they're actually hurting.
Right. So that aside, right? And this game, I was super, super excited about this. I don't think it will be brought back. And I don't think you could even think about reviving this game because consumer confidence will be lost, so no one will believe you. And then what's the value, like cost benefit, whatever, to trying to put this out and convince people that it'll really come out again. I think this is the end of the Perfect Dark franchise forever.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
So terrible. Like so terrible.
But cold equations. We know that this studio was formed in 2018. We know the way the studio was set up was non-conventional, although Sandfall Interactive kind of just did the same thing to great success with Expedition 33, but whatever.
Well, they did that more organically. These guys actually planned what they were trying to do, which let's see how that worked out. Yeah.
Sure, but the point is, it was industry veterans getting together, a small number of people, and then bringing in contractors to do the finish work once you have the foundation. The idea, set. That's what the initiative was pitched on, right?
Yeah.
But what we know happened is that there were power struggles. You had within the studio. We know they had to restart the project. We know they had to. We know there was mass defections. We know they had to bring in a sister studio, a partner studio in Crystal Dynamics. And if after you've shown this, if you say, all right, let's form this studio, cool. Let's put the building out. Cool. I'm investing. All right. I'm on board. I'm doing the play test. Okay. It's looking good. All right. Now there's people fighting inside. Okay. Mr. Gallagher, is Daryl Gallagher that ran this? Is it? Okay. Cool. Figure that out. All right. You got rid of the bad seeds. You got rid of the people that were questioning you. All right. We're going to give you more. You need more time? Pandemic? Okay. More time, more money. All right. Now a bunch of people left because you had your power struggle.
It's not even more time, more money. It's more time, more money, and bringing on board your entire early team.
That's what I'm coming to that, right? So we gave you the more time. We gave you the more money. We stuck by you when you had your power struggle. Right? We built you the new offices, right? We gave you the IP, you showed it, and now we're going to bring in Crystal Dynamics. There's a vote of confidence. We're going to spend the money. We're going to partner with Crystal Dynamics. And now we show it, people like it, and we do our progress update, and you tell me this percentage of the game is done, or we're not going to be ready in 2026, at a certain point, accountability is going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So as much as I hate it, as much as Phil needs to shut the F up, if you're saying cuts need to be made and you're looking at this project and they're not ready to go, then what do you do?
So while to add a little more color to the conversation, I didn't hear this spoken about, but Plagued Injected with another 5 Australian says Perfect Dark Designer said gamers were a mistake and attacked them as quote racist pigs. Wow.
Yeah, that's one guy. I never put anything on a thing because one guy, when you got hundreds of or thousands of people working on a project,
it's not the whole
one
project.
Guy had a
obviously,
dumb take.
Yeah,
you can't hold that against the whole thing.
Yeah. But see this part right here. See all of this made me go. There was so much further along. It saddens me that that seemingly this was far along to where there's actual
there's been a lot of vertical
cost.
Slices though that didn't have the rest of it. Like
true.
God of War was famous for that. What they showed you in the beginning, they had to make that real.
They had to build it. Yeah, they had to build it later. Yes.
But I'm only saying all this to say, like, if this was in fact a troubled project, do you go with the sunk cost fallacy? Do you keep throwing good money after bad? Or at a certain point, you said, we stuck with you on time. We stuck with you on money. We hired the studio to give you the help you need. If you are not ready to go, at a certain point, we got to say this is not going to work.
True. And let's be absolutely clear here. While we're having all this conversation about how bad this all is, and I agree that the way it was executed was very, very haphazard and terrible. If you put a logical mind to it, there are some that I personally still don't have a very logical beat on it, but like Perfect Dark, I can see why you'd go, you put a lot of time and money into this, and we still haven't seen, depending on how much more they have, I can logically see why that would go. I could even see the whole idea with as harsh as it sounds, the whole Forza Horizon, Forza Motorsport thing. I can see that. Right, because on the page, they're both in the same category, right? And how much more are we going to allow? How much longer while we're in this mode of optimization and financial, trying to claw back some of the financial costs? How much longer are we going to allow these two separate that are in relatively the same category, allow them to sit when there could be some consolidation efforts to be made to potentially like claw back some of that? I can see all those lines. Obviously it doesn't spell greatness for gaming and all that, and maybe that may bring about a game that is sacrifice based rather than the great simulator that you guys know and are looking for. I get that, but from a business perspective, I can get it. I can understand it. Not all of them, but clearly some of these make sense. I do feel like specifically here, it sounds like they've been wanting to do some of these moves for a while now, and they kind of lumped it all in now because they have that opportunity to, but they're still not done yet.
I want to push back. I want to bring and Logic. I'd love to hear your take on what the scenario I just set up, because you talk about accountability and a lot, right? And it'd be nice if there was some accountability for some executives. But anyway, we can talk about that.
That's the whole conversation.
I think a similar thing could be said about Everwild, right? You showed something, you rebooted it twice inside. You show a documentary video on how you guys are working on it. It looks like you guys are smelling farts all day, right? Like it's 2025 now. We first showed the game in 2019, and you don't have anything to show.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, I understand that it sucks that this is happening. I understand how tone deaf Phil was. I understand that their trust is in the toilet with what they say. Like, I don't believe it. I can't even believe a trailer anymore now. Right. Believe nothing until you can download it. That's the new mantra when it comes to Xbox. But I also can wear a different hat and understand why, if these things weren't ready to go, that we're seeing these decisions made. But the other thing is, I've seen a lot of people say, well, they're only going to focus on like Call of Duty now, right? And so, but then
only the big hitters, only the trusted,
right,
safe bets.
But again, and there's a conversation around Game Pass there with, because I think the lifeblood of Game Pass are those smaller sort of AA games that can be turned around quickly, more predictably, and for less money than the big huge bets, right? And if they're moving away from that, I don't know if they are or aren't, but if they are moving away from it, then why is Double Fine not affected here? Why is Compulsion, who just shipped the game, so they don't have something coming out soon, why is Compulsion still around? Why are these other smaller teams still around? Is it possible that while this is terrible, and as a result of corporate greed on one hand, mismanagement on another hand, that they also are projects that didn't have a good outlook being canceled?
Yeah, I think I'd add to that, Everborn, the notion that they're going to hyper focus on doubling down on big IP. Again, that I enter into argument that the possibilities maybe both things are true. And it could be that they are doubling down on big IP and they're keeping a smaller stable of like your AA stuff that can be turned around at lower cost, and then the rest of it will be fulfilled by build or buy, right? That there'll be more of a focus on procuring that type of content to pull it into Game Pass. So, and that's not to say that I know. That's just to say that maybe there's multiple models on how those things could be fulfilled, and they may be going down that path, which might say something about like what you can expect from like an Xbox first party studio construct, but it shouldn't necessarily equate to a fear that Game Pass will be marginalized or reduced in priority, right? I mean, what I've said about the subscription model is that, in my mind, and this is why I kind of always doubted like the whole like we're going to put 4 big AAA games in Game Pass every year. I mean, maybe, but the point is like between the tackles, you can't fill that with AAA, right? Because it's more expensive. You've got to fill that with a steady, consistent drumbeat with a regular cadence of the smaller stuff. And then give people the Stranger Things, right, every now and again, to keep them fed, right, in the system. I want to go back to one thing you said before about like accountability, and it links to what you're saying about like studios and this performance, and maybe projects weren't going well. And this is less of an assessment of what's going on at Xbox and more of a bit of a preaching of a sermon as an older grognard for people who are parts of Fortune 500 companies and things. One thing you should be aware of, as you mentioned, kind of this allusion to a thing that we call cutting into bone, right? Is that when you're part of a big corporation and you see a series of layoffs, that you should understand that they start with the low performers. Those are the first people that are marshaled out the door because they're easily justified, and they obviously don't help you get to the future. But when you see these things happen multiple times, right, over, and I was part of a Fortune 500 company that I saw go through 6 layoffs, right, over a number of years. And sometimes there's a conversation about whether or not the layoffs are driving the strategy or the strategy are driving the layoffs, right? But eventually we got down to a point where we hit like the last 2 layoffs where even we started with 3 where we said, okay, now we're cutting into bone. Now we're laying off people not because of performance, but because they may not be the optimal choices to help us realize the new strategy. And you start hitting medium performers and high performers, right? So just a thing to be conscious of in managing your career, because as we proceeded down that, we eventually hit a point in the strategy where the location I was at was not doing the work that I wanted to do, and where the offer for me was, well, the offer for several people before me was, you can stay here and be part of the corporation, but you need to go move to this other site, right? And then there were lots of other things associated with that. And eventually I made the decision, I'm not going to move. This goes along with my personal mantra that companies don't decide when I'm going to leave. I decide when I'm going to leave a company.
As
me.
you should, sir.
As you should. Darn it. That's right. So,
hey, Logic,
gentlemen,
I was just saying, man, the way the industry's going, man, I'm starting to thinking about telling my kids, you should just go into the trades.
Oh,
because the way these listen, I don't even want to talk about numbers, but I got some quotes for a renovation that I'm doing from a plumber and a HVAC person and an electrician. My God, I may have chosen the wrong profession, But anyway,
gents, we are at 3 hours and 40 minutes. Almost a 4-hour podcast. Not what we started.
And I just got the text that I need to bring my behind downstairs.
So we will let the great Lucy's Augustus's last question be how we get out of here. And by the way, before we do, thank you once again to the great Paris Lily, to the great VG Fight School. They joined us and made this so much better. If y'all here at the late end of the show, didn't catch them at the top of the show, how about you rewind or start from the top and watch that great episode. Lucius with a $5 super chat. He asks the question: now that we have the layoffs in front of us, how do we see Laura Frier's video now? Never Wild. You see what he did there?
That's
and Perfect
fantastic.
Dark were perfect examples she used. Now, I will first and foremost go to the great Game Logic. Game Logic, how about you answer the question? I'm sure you saw Laura Frier's video probably. With all the hindsight now, was she right? What do you think of her assessment?
I mean, it's the same assessment that I have of any of us or anybody who's in this space. Like, it's an opinion and a perspective. She may be right, she may be wrong. The results she's painting may come to be true. They may not be linked to the causality that she mentioned. So, there's definitely weight to it from where she came from. In my perspective, by the same token, lots of people see that weight and that causes them to be dismissive of her comment. Yeah. So, I mean, here's what I always say, and I think I'm going to say something about this as we, when it comes time to outro. She's a data point. She's providing a voice. What you should do is you should listen to multiple perspectives and multiple opinions, and then go make your own decision. What you should not do is be dismissive of those opinions and those perspectives simply because they don't. Right, they're not aligned with the brand that you have faith and loyalty in, or just because they don't align with your own personal perspective. Right? I don't come on this show so that I can hear a repeat of the things that I already believe in. I come on this show and participate in a conversation with these gentlemen because we are all of different opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. Everborn Saga, sir, what about you? What are your thoughts post layoffs? And so do you think Laura Frier has a point?
So two things. That logic, what you said right there, means my bait worked. I baited you in, I got you here, and we didn't. No, I'm joking. But to the Laura Frier thing, I didn't get to speak on this before, so I'm glad Lucius brought it up. And as I've said in the Discord, I think that if I were Laura Frier and I helped create the original Xbox and the 360 as the part of the advanced technology group at Microsoft, and my whole purpose there was to de-Windowsify Windows, to make those consoles and the way that they were made at that time, I would feel the same way about these shifts that we're seeing from Microsoft. That does not mean these shifts aren't warranted. So I think she has every right, and if I were in her shoes, I would probably feel the same way. And she freely admitted that she has a bias there because she hates Windows, right? She said the moment she left, she installed Linux on everything. But I do think there was some editorializing there, and it's okay that I disagree with her, but I still respect how she feels. And again, I acknowledge that if I were in her shoes, I'd feel the same way. Doesn't make her the sole perspective that matters, right? And I think a lot of people, and this comes back to my earlier point, because they have their certain feelings on the corporation or the brand, took what she said and took it as gospel because it agreed with the feelings that they had.
What she wanted. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
On the inside.
Yep.
Right.
I don't disagree with that take. Yep. That's for sure.
So, but we can take it and then we can juxtapose it to other data points and other perspectives, and just, as Logic said, put that in the well of ideas and just accept it. We don't have to attack her. She was a part of creating the reason we all fell in love with the brand in the first place. So at least give her that respect. It doesn't mean you have to take what she says as gospel.
so that I am not attacked by Lady Everborn, let's hit that outro. Game Logic, sir, thank you once again for joining us. Always great when you join us. And those who don't agree are a minority in our community, because we always get great takes, always great opinions, always great comments when you join us. Sir, where else can people keep up with all your ongoings this week, sir?
Nobody needs to follow me or come watch my content. Yeah, what I'll put out is this is kind of my wrap up. So I see a lot of the pushback and a lot of the dislike, in the comments and in the chat. And what I'll say is, I don't come here to win arguments. It doesn't matter if Everborn agrees with me or TK agrees with me or the Discord agrees with me or the people in chat agree with me. I come in here to give a difference of perspective, and to have a conversation. At the end of the day, my personal feeling is no one of us is 100% right? That the causality linked to a result is at some point on some sliding scale between 50 and 90%, right, of a thing that a person says, and then 10 to 40%, right, or 50% of a thing that another person says. The thing I'm most interested in is not having a conversation around absolutes. So, I mean, people like, we have the chat going on now about the Laura Frier thing. Like, yeah, you can take what she said and throw it out the door. Well, then in that case, you know everything, and you don't need to listen to her or ask me. But my advocacy is that you listen to different opinions and you listen to different perspectives, so that you're not in an echo chamber and just constantly kind of lathering yourself up, flogging yourself with palm leaves and convincing yourself that you're right. Because then how will you ever know that you're wrong?
Yeah, that's true. I for one advocate that you follow this man wherever you happen to find him. Always reasoned, always well thought out. Whether you agree or disagree, he puts in the work. So we always appreciate that. Mr. Everborn Saga, good sir, anything new that you wish to let the fine folks know of? Any events that we may find the Everborn Saga at, sir?
Yes, in about a week or two. Let me tell you the exact dates. We are taking the Everborn Saga on the road from, wait for it, and of course I can't, okay, here we go. From July 17th to the 20th, that's a Friday through Sunday, we will be at the Miami, Florida SuperCon with the Everborn Saga. We will have a booth there. So if you're in the Miami, Florida area, come out. If you like comic books, if you like anime and manga, we will be there along with a bunch of other comic book stuff. So I expect to see John Wolf there. If he's not, I'm going to be very upset. But if
this
if
might
you
be
are
a
in
time
Florida,
where
if you
Wolf,
are in the Miami area,
this might be a time where Wolf and myself and some others, it might be a warranting a time for IRL meetups, man. This might be great. Let's do this.
And we'll be there with the full booth. I think we got a corner space, so it's going to be a full
setup. Y'all rolling up? You're rolling up with the
Cybertruck?
Cybertruck?
Everything. We're driving there, actually. We're making a road
trip.
You're
driving up with the Cybertruck. Okay.
It's too much hassle to ship everything, and stuff might break, like the display stuff. So we're using the autopilot. Be safe. Keep an eye on it. But yeah, we're driving down there.
Stilofax will be there. Stilofax will be there. Let's go. I can't wait to see him. Yeah, this is gonna be great. 2 weeks. All right. Well, let's work it out. Well, so that means now GCP might be fluid in 2 weeks. We'll figure it out. But that's cool. I look forward to it. I'm looking forward to being a part of that. That's awesome. Okay. Well, all right. So I think that's it for us. It's been a great day of conversation. I think we've hit more views than we have in a long time. I think almost 400 people are watching still right now, 380 some odd from all the various channels that we do.
I hope we gave you something different than what everybody else is doing.
That's right. You should know that I will find myself at Gamescom this year. So I'll be heading towards Germany in August to cover that and hopefully give great coverage for GCP. So all of the great super chats and all the support that you guys give us lend to helping defray those costs of us going to those locations and doing those things. So thank you guys so much for all your continued support. Once again, thanks to the great VG Fight School, the great Paris Lily, and of course Game Logic and Everborn Saga for always, having these great conversations with me. You too can be part of these great conversations. Join us on the Discord. Now it's a very easy thing to be able to go and be a part of. All you got to do is type in discord.gg/the Gaming Circle Podcast, the TGCP. Very, very simple. You put it in there, it'll get you there. Shout out to Soil Tech for posting it in our comments as well. But I think that's it, man. Everborn, anything else we have to cover? I think we're about through.
That's it.
Okay, that's it. See y'all next week. Peace.
Thanks for being on it.